Chapter 385. After leaving Sitong's grave in the fog forest, I've been looking for an opportunity to kill Gong Qianxue, but there's no way. Bai Yichen's mouth hooks up into a self-deprecating smile. After investigating Gong Qianxue, I found out how deep her influence is and how sinister and frightening her methods are. Even Jingchang Country's ghost city has almost fallen into her hands. Relying on my own strength, even if I were to stake the entire Ziyang sect, I still wouldn't be able to contend against her. What's more, how could I be willing to stake my sect? Mayan's heart moves, suddenly lowering her voice. You discovered that Jin Wangye and Gong Qianxue are related? That's right. Bai Yichen's eyes flash with a cold light. Jian Wangye appears to be a debauchee Wangye who doesn't care about anything, but in fact, he's a disciple of Tiandao sect. His position in Tiandao sect isn't lower than Gong Qianxue's. I also found out that many of Gong Qianxue's actions have Jin Wangye's shadow. That's because he knows that he can't fight Gong Qianxue with just hatred and solitary courage. That's why Bai Yichen thought of approaching the core of Gong Qianxue's power through Jin Wangye and finally give her a fatal blow. When Mayan fought with Jin Wangye's middle-aged man that day, she noticed that the way his mysterious energy operates is inextricably linked to Tiandao sect. That's why she readily followed them here. Mayan deeply looks at the man in front of her. Wuchen Gongzi Bai Yichen is a famous handsome man in Yinwu continent, gentle as jade, handsome and elegant. When they first met, Bai Yichen was cold and silent, but his whole body was still filled with a warm aura. But now, there's only deep-rooted hatred and coldness left in those eyes, as if there's no longer a trace of human emotion. However, she remembers Lin Sidong, Bai Yichen's lover, who died tragically in Gong Qianxue's hands. Mayan can't help but sigh deeply, her mood inevitably somewhat heavy. She understands Bai Yichen's desire to avenge his fiancée, but she's also worried for this man, because the enemy is too strong, and Bai Yichen has already completely resolved to perish together to avenge Lin Sidong's death. However, as the words of consolation reach her mouth, Mayan ultimately swallows them back. Since that perverted prince is your target, I'll spare his life for now. Mu Yan's voice was careless, as if taking the life of the powerful Wangye was nothing more than a small matter to her. But do you know where my stupid disciple is right now? Deep gratitude flashed in Bai Yichen's eyes, but he didn't say anything. Qi Yin Country's third prince Liu Beiyu? Mu Yin sighed and said, if it wasn't that idiot, who else could it be? A smile flashed across Bai Yichen's eyes. If he's the one you're looking for, I think I can take you to see him now. The place where Liu Beiyu is imprisoned is a very secret dungeon in Jinwangfu. The entrance to the dungeon was under a well. Without Bai Yichen's guidance, it would not be easy for Mu Yin to find her stupid apprentice. The two of them quietly fell into the well. Bai Yichen lowers his voice and says, the guards in the dungeon are all Jin Wangfu's most elite death soldiers. Jin Wangye seems to trust me, but my every move is also under the surveillance of these men of death. Chapter 386. The corners of Mu Yan's mouth lightly hooks up, smiling carelessly. Why bother? Saying that, under Bai Yichen's flabbergasted gaze, she takes out a porcelain bottle. The cover of the dungeon's entrance is lifted, and Mu Yin places her palm on the porcelain bottle, slowly activating her mysterious energy. Soon, a wisp of white smoke curls out of the porcelain bottle, winding its way into the dungeon. After about the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, Mu Yin tosses the bottle away and claps her hands. All right, let's go in. Wait, you'll be discovered. Before Bai Yichen could finish saying discovered, he sees a scene that makes him dumbstruck. All the guards in the dungeon have fallen to the ground one by one, sleeping like dead pigs. Each and every one of these guards has a cultivation above the peak of Earth stage. The two at the front even have a higher cultivation than Bai Yichen. And such a group of death warriors, who could make people's faces change just by talking about them, can't even hold on for the time it takes to drink a cup of tea under Mu Yan's draft. Bai Yichen gasps in amazement, and he also realizes why Jin Wangye, knowing that Mu Yin is unwilling, knowing that she has a child, still insisted on marrying her as his Wang Fei. The entire dungeon has been emptied out by Mu Yan's bottle of draft. The two quickly find the locked-up Liu Beiyu. They see him lying on the bed, sleeping on his back, snoring softly, and a suspicious liquid flowing out of the corner of his mouth. A smile slowly spreads across Mu Yan's face. Bai Yichen sees the bright and beautiful smile on the girl's face, but he feels a chill, and he can't help but take a step back. The next moment, there's a bang. Liu Beiyu, who is sleeping without a care in the world, is directly kicked out of the bed, and he falls like a dog eating mud. Who is it? That son of a bitch dares to sneak up on this prince. Liu Beiyu jumps up from the ground, shouting loudly as he assumes an attacking stance. Smack! A palm slaps the back of his head. A sweet female voice faintly reaches his ears. Who are you calling a son of a bitch? When Liu Beiyu hears the voice, his whole body stiffens. Then he suddenly turns around. Liu Beiyu's eyes redden when he sees the girl's beautiful face right in front of him. Master? Is that you? I'm not dreaming, right? Mu Yan looks at him with a smile that isn't a smile. I saw that you were quite happy in your dream just now. Sob, sob, sob. Master, you've finally come to save me. Your disciple is so scared. That Jin Wangye is a pervert, master. You mustn't marry that pervert. I don't want that kind of shameless master. Liu Beiyu pounces over and hugs Mayan's calf, crying his heart out. Mu Yan lifts her foot and kicks it away in disgust. All right, stop howling. I'm warning you. This is the last time I'm going to save you. If you're so useless next time and someone else catches you. Liu Beiyu's eyes are brimming with tears. Master, you will save me, right? Mu Yan coldly squints at him, sneering, you guess? Liu Beiyu shudders, then continues to howl dryly. Am I not an undeserved calamity? That Jin Wangye caught me. Isn't it because he adores you, master? Cough, cough. But master, you wouldn't really be threatened by that Jin Wangye to marry him, right? Don't. This disciple's head can be broken and blood can flow, but master's lifelong happiness absolutely cannot be ruined. Chapter 387. Speaking of which, Liu Beiyu is still an Earth Stage practitioner. His innate talent is naturally good. It's just a pity that his interests and hobbies aren't in cultivation at all, to the extent that his cultivation doesn't advance, but instead regresses. Don't, master! Liu Beiyu suddenly lets out a mournful wail. That guy Yin Haoyan's training is completely inhuman, and the final test of the ink camp isn't something that a human can pass. If this disciple goes, I won't be able to come back. Master, please spare me. This disciple will definitely cultivate properly in the future. Liu Beiyu chases after Mayan all the way, crying and begging. But it's a pity that Mayan completely ignores him. Only when they're on the ground, afraid of attracting Jin Wangye's attention, does he shut his mouth. But he's sobbing all the way, looking at Mayan from time to time with tears of grievance in his eyes. The three people quietly arrive at the side door of the backyard. Mayan looks at Bai Yichen. You must be careful if you stay by Jin Wangye's side alone. His strength is stronger than you think. You must not fight recklessly. Remember to always carry the life-saving draft that I gave you. You must remember, only by keeping your life can you avenge your fiancé one day. Bai Yichen slowly nods. You should leave quickly. Mayan is just about to turn around. Suddenly, she hears the clanging of bamboo wood. That's the night watchman announcing the time on the street outside. It's already the midnight hour. Mayan's hand slowly presses on the door bolt, about to use mysterious energy to break it. Suddenly, a violent tremor came from her heart and aura C. Mayan's brows wrinkle. Beads of sweat instantly appear on her forehead. The hand that was originally pressing on the door also softly hangs down. Thump, thump, thump. She hears the violent beating of her own heart, as well as the faint sound of a zither. An indescribable burning pain spreads through her limbs and bones. This kind of pain penetrates the skin and bones, and it's also somewhat familiar. Mayan, what's wrong? Master, why is your complexion so bad? Don't scare me? Mayan slowly raises her head with difficulty and looks towards the east of Jin Wangfu. There stands a tower there, and at the top of the tower, there seems to be a silver-white light flickering like it's breathing. And Mayan can clearly sense the Tian Emo Qin within her body. It was playing on its own, and the rhythm of the music resonated with the flickering light. That's right. She remembered. Why did she feel this pain was so familiar? This kind of pain, as if it wants to tear her whole body apart. Isn't it exactly the same as when she made the Tian Emochin recognize her as its master? In Mu Yan's mind, Bailey Inlo's words suddenly resounded. There is one thing you must remember. The Shun musician's most powerful skill can only be realized through the Tian Emochin. Therefore, if you want to become a real Shun musician, you must repair the Tian Emochin. Therefore, the Tian Emochin needs to be repaired. Could it be that, in this Jin Wangfu, by a freak combination of factors, there just happens to be something that can restore the Tian Emochin? Just as he was thinking about this, suddenly, a white light shot towards Mu Yin from the top of the pagoda like a shooting star. Bai Yiqin and Liu Beiyu are startled. He instinctively rushed forward to help her block the attack. However, that streak of light was simply too fast. Even if Bai Yiqin was a heaven rank advanced, he could only feel a gust of wind brushing past his face. That white light has already arrived in front of Mu Yin. Without waiting for the three people to react, it instantly stops in front of Mu Yin. Chapter 388. Seeing this thing, Bai Yiqin's eyes widened and he exclaimed, "Dragonlight stone. Why would dragonlight stones appear here? What is a dragonlight stone?" Even Mu Yin raised her pale face to look at Bai Yiqin. Bai Yiqin takes a deep breath and says, "It is said that the dragonlight stone appeared in the Yinwu continent 1,000 years ago. At that time, there was a heavenly vision, falling into the fog forest, causing millions of people to scramble for it. In the end, everyone only found a gray stone at the place where the anomaly occurred. In the beginning, no one discovered the wonders of this stone. Until one night, when a martial artist was meditating beside the stone suddenly emitted a lustrous white light. As a result, that martial artist's cultivation advanced by leaps and bounds, breaking through a small realm in one night. Since then, people have been fighting over this stone and named it the Dragonlight Stone. But a few hundred years ago, the Dragonlight Stone disappeared. I also saw these records and drawings in Ziyang Zong's secret scrolls, but I didn't expect that the Dragonlight Stone that everyone fought over at that time would actually be in Jin Wangye's hands." Liu Beiyu looks at the dragon-dazzling stone that is emitting a soft light, then looks at Mayan. Then why did this dragon-dazzling stone suddenly fly in front of Master? Could it be that it wants to recognize Master as its master? But Mu Yin is well aware of it. Of course, the Dragonlight Stone didn't want to recognize him as its master. Instead, it wants to return to its original form, the Tian Emochin. If she's not mistaken, this Dragonlight Stone should be a piece of material that was split off from the Tian Emochin. She recalled the markings on the map. The mark on the Yinwu continent is particularly close to the fog forest, but she couldn't find it even after searching for a long time. Now that he thought about it, it must be because the Dragonlight Stone was taken away by someone. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Clang, clang, clang. The deafening sound of the zither echoed in his ears. The entire space trembled. It's obvious that the Tian Emochin can't wait any longer, so it impatiently urges Mayan to quickly fetch the Dragonlight Stone. Mu Yin takes a deep breath and slowly stretches out her hand. When her fingertips came into contact with the Dragonlight Stone, a resplendent light suddenly lit up. The Dragonlight Stone instantly turned into a meteor and flew into her body. Ugh! A tearing pain came from his body. The pain was several times more intense than before, causing Mu Yin to finally let out a muffled groan. Beads of sweat rolled down from her forehead. "Master, what's wrong?" Mu Yin's body is on the verge of collapse. If it weren't for Liu Beiyu's support, perhaps she would have already fallen down. "Help me back to the house first." Mayan tries her best to suppress the pain in her body and says in a weak voice, "Liu Beiyu, I'm afraid I can't take you back for the time being." "Master, what are you talking about? It doesn't matter if this disciple leaves or not, as long as Master is fine." Liu Beiyu is so anxious that he's about to cry. "Master, are you all right?" There was something, but it was a good thing. Because she couldn't find a way to repair the Tian Emochin, Mu Yin has always been worried. She still firmly remembered what Bailey Inlu had said before she disappeared. Only by restoring the Tian Emochin Can she truly advance to the point where she can leave this Yinwu continent? As for Xiaobao, only by leaving the Yinwu continent can he grow up healthily and happily. The only depressing thing is that the Tian Emo Qin, whether it's recognizing a master or repairing it, is an incomparably painful process. Chapter 389. Supported by Bai Yiqin and Liu Beiyu, Mu Yin returns to the room that Jin Wangya has prepared for her. His original escape plan could only be temporarily postponed. The two of them confirmed it several times. After Mu Yin repeatedly assured them that there would be no problems, they left and stood guard outside the door. As soon as Bai Yiqin and Liu Beiyu leave, Mu Yin immediately impatiently enters the space. The originally gray Tian Emo Qin floats in the air, its body turning crimson once again. It was like blood jade, but it was thousands of times more resplendent and beautiful. 7-colored light filled the entire space, causing the grassland houses in the space to shake gently like illusions. The fat rabbit also woke up from its deep sleep. A pair of mung bean-like eyes stare unblinkingly at the Tian Emo Qin in the void. His chubby body trembles slightly because of his instinctive fear, but his eyes are filled with awe. Is this the most precious treasure of the 3 realms, the unique Tian Emo Qin? Is this the true coercion of the Tian Emo Qin? It was truly powerful and terrifying. It turns to look at Mayan, its mung bean eyes glittering. At that time, it still felt that a mere mortal of the Yinwu continent wasn't worthy to be its master, not worthy to order him around. But now, he had to take back those words. To be able to control such a terrible Tian Emo Qin, to be able to make the Tian Emo Qin willingly bow its head in submission. This Junmayan is really worthy of being the little master's mother. No, it should be said that her innate talent is no less than the little master's. Mu Yin resists the pain and sits down cross-legged. Intense pain spread through her limbs and bones, and she felt as if all the bones in her body were about to melt. But perhaps it was because she had already experienced it once. Or perhaps the restoration process wasn't as crazy as the process of recognizing a master. Therefore, Mu Yin felt that she could still bear it this time. As the internal force in her body revolves, most of the light emitted by the Tian Emo Qin begins to enter Mayan's body. 5-colored light flowed through her meridians, making her look like a goddess descending from the heavens. The rabbit blankly stares at Mayan for a while, then immediately begins to absorb the light emitted by the Tian Emo Qin. Such an opportunity to use the Tian Emo Qin's formidable divine power to forge the body might not even come by in a million years. As she absorbs more and more of the Tian Emo Qin's radiance, Mayan feels the pain in her body slowly diminish. Time passed slowly. After an unknown period of time, clang, there's a sound, and the Tian Emo Qin falls from the sky. The light disappears, returning to its original gray appearance. No, it was still very different from before. The original Tian Emo Qin looks like an old piece of wood, dark and glossy, as if it could rot and break at any time. But now, the Tian Emo Qin's body is as smooth as a mirror, and there's even a faint dark silver pattern on top. It made the zither look ancient yet luxurious. One look, and you could tell it was worth a fortune. Mayan opens her eyes and sees the Tian Emo Qin that has fallen in front of her. She knows that he has finished repairing it. The air in the space, which was originally fresh, now became incomparably fragrant. Her body was filled with a huge amount of energy, which made her feel a little overwhelmed. Mayan shakes her head and reaches out to touch the Tian Emo Qin. Buzz. The zither strings vibrated, and the sound of the zither rang out. It was more beautiful than before, clearer and more distant than before. But in the next moment, a sudden change occurred. With Mayan's touch as the center, the entire Tian Emo Qin suddenly splits into countless cracks like a spider's web. The crack grew larger and larger, and then a silver light surged out like an avalanche, abruptly entering Mu Yan's body. Chapter 390. The sudden and severe pain makes Mu Yin unable to bear it any longer, and she lets out a mournful wail. Immediately after, the space disintegrates and disappears, and Mu Yin reappears in the room. Even the fat rabbit is forced to roll down at her feet, cutting a sorry figure. Master! Mu Yin! The door to the room is pushed open with a bang, and Liu Beiyu and Bai Yiqin burst in. What they see is Mu Yan's entire body dripping with blood, her complexion deathly pale and unconscious. Liu Beiyu is so scared that he almost kneels on the ground. He scrambles to rush in front of Mu Yan. Tears streamed down her face. Master, master, what's wrong? Even the usually calm Bai Yiqin has a change in expression. Mu Yan, how could this be? What's going on? However, Mu Yan, who has completely fainted, how could she still hear their voices and answer their questions? The two panic-stricken people completely don't notice that outside the room, under the night sky, between the three realms, earth-shaking changes are happening little by little. The only one who notices is the fat rabbit, who has recovered from his dizziness. It looks out the window at the changing sky. Then it looks at the unconscious Mu Yan. A little bit of astonishment, shock, and disbelief emerge in the mung bean's eyes. How is this possible? In the Yinwu continent, there's no spiritual power, no heaven and earth's vitality, yet someone has molded their own spiritual root. Moreover, it's actually not an ordinary spiritual root, but it's unique between heaven and earth. Tianyuan City, Junji Medical Center. Even when he's bathing, Di Mingju doesn't let go of the opportunity to train Xiaobao. For humans, the water is the most natural adversity. In the end, will they break through the bottleneck, or will they be crushed by the limit? It's the place that can test and temper a person's state of mind. Xiaobao rushes out of the water, gasping for air. His fair and tender little face is flushed, and his face shows extreme exhaustion. But his eyes are bright, unblinking as he looks at Di Mingju. Di Mingju raises his hand, and a blanket that's several times bigger than Xiaobao's body wraps around his little body. The man's lazy and cold voice slowly rings out, 2 hours, not bad. Today's training ends here. Saying that, he stoops to pick up Xiaobao along with the blanket and walks out of the bath. This time, Xiaobao obediently let him hug him. Her short little hands are still hugging Di Mingju's neck. A pair of blue eyes, exactly the same as Di Mingju's, softly blinks. His eyelashes, which are as dense and long as small fans, are stained with a wet mist. She looked especially adorable. Her long eyelashes fluttered, and Xiaobao could not help but ask, will Xiaobao become as strong as you one day? Di Mingju glances at him, and reaches out to wipe the water stains off his face with a blanket. Although his movements were clumsy, there was a trace of gentleness that was hard to detect. As long as you train well, you will naturally be able to. The man's voice is indifferent, but it's a matter of course. You're my Di Mingju's son. If you're not strong enough, wouldn't you lose Benjun's face? Xiaobao opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but he didn't say anything in the end. Although he was young, he knew. The man in front of him was not his real father. Yang Qin had also never mentioned who his real father was. In the past, Xiaobao didn't care at all whether he had a father or not. But at this moment, a trace of sadness and longing welled up in his little heart. Chapter 391. The two of them put on their clothes and walked out. Han Yi and Ing Mei hold Xiaobao's Di Mingju once again. There's no longer any shock on their faces. Hee, ever since Jun Shang met Miss June, is there anything impossible that he hasn't done before? What's there to be surprised about? Greetings, Lord. Greetings, young master. Xiaobao struggles for a bit, then jumps down from Di Mingju's arms and goes to Mu Yan's room. Yang Qin. The little hand hasn't pushed open the door yet, but the cry has already slipped out. He hadn't seen his mother for 7 days, and he didn't have time to get along with her today. He missed his mother very much. Young master, wait a minute. Han Yi couldn't help but speak up to stop her. Soon after, he embarrassedly says, Miss June went out early in the morning and hasn't returned yet. They only discovered it after Mayan had left for a long time. 2 experts from the Shoshin continent, under orders to guard a mortal of the Yinwu continent. In the end, they didn't even know when he had left. Han Yi feels that he doesn't have the face to see Jun Shang. Ing Mei directly knelt to the ground. This subordinate is incompetent. Please punish me, Jun Shang. Di Mingju actually doesn't get angry. He just casually waves his hand, his voice cold and indifferent. Purgatory Pool will add 1 more day. It was only 1 day. Han Yi, and Ing Mei simultaneously breathe a sigh of relief. In fact, they were not worried about Miss June. What kind of person is Miss June? She's a high pre-celestial. As long as she's in the Yinwu continent, her strength is so strong that even they can't deal with her. Who in this world could harm her? Xiaobao immediately revealed a dejected expression. He thought that as soon as he came out, he would be able to throw himself into his mother's arms. Suddenly, the little body soared into the air. Dimingju picks him up again. Two small hands subconsciously wrap around Dimingju's neck. By the time he's able to react, Dimingju has already taken him out of the courtyard, heading towards the main street in the front yard. She couldn't help but ask, "What are we going to do?" Dimingju glances at him. "Do you still need to ask?" "Of course it's to bring your mother home." "Take my mother home." Xiaobao muttered these words in his mind in a daze. A faint and restrained smile appeared on her blushing face. The three of them really looked like a family. When they were in the fog forest, Dimingju had once kissed Mayan's vow. Because there's no spiritual power in the Yinwu continent, the effect of this promised kiss is very small. The range of his perception was also almost negligible. But if it was only in the same city, it was still very easy to find the fluctuation aura that Mu Yin had appeared in before with his divine sense. The two of them had originally thought that they would be able to find Mu Yin very quickly, and then the three of them would happily return. However, when the trail he was looking for reached a secluded alley, it finally disappeared without a trace. Dimingju and Xiaobao's complexions turned extremely unsightly at the same time. Mu Yin had disappeared, and all traces of her had been cleaned up starting from this alley. Even someone as powerful as Dimingju. When one's spiritual sense could not be fully released, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens to find a person like a needle in a haystack. Mother will be fine. Xiaobao clenched his fists tightly. His small face was cold and solemn, and his voice was incomparably calm. However, his body trembled slightly, revealing his panic and fear. Chapter 392. The people of the Junji Medical Center and the Emperor Garden are all dispatched. The whole of Tianyuan City is almost turned upside down, but there's still no trace of Mu Yin. The sky darkens little by little, until it's pitch black. Han Yi and Ing Mei's faces are full of remorse, wishing they could slap themselves to death. And the coldness coming from Dimingju makes the two even more aghast. If they still can't find her, Junshang might completely release his divine sense. When that time comes, the entire Yinwu continent would be unable to withstand the extremely powerful energy, causing the sky to fall and the earth to crack. Junshang could only endure until now, because if the target of the vow's kiss is in danger, Junshang would be able to sense it. Just as Han Yi and Ing Mei are kneeling to beg for forgiveness, suddenly, a powerful mysterious energy fluctuation comes from the northeast corner of Tianyuan City. It seems to be accompanied by the sound of a house collapsing. That's the direction of the Shen family in Tianyuan City. Because they can't find Mu Yin anywhere, Shun Jinglin and Xiaobao lead the people to the Shen family. Oh no, it's the little Gongzi. Han Yi and Ing Mei suddenly stand up, looking towards the direction of the energy fluctuation. Without waiting for them to move, Dimingju's figure has already disappeared like lightning. Little master, be careful. Feng Haiteng screams, her whole body pouncing forward, firmly blocking Xiaobao behind her. She watches as the terrifying internal force attack is about to fall on her back. Suddenly, a figure flashes, and a broad man blocks in front of her. Bang! There's a loud noise as the man bears that powerful attack, and he suddenly spits out a mouthful of blood. Feng Haiteng turns around, seeing the slowly falling figure. The rims of her eyes redden. Haoyin, Haoyin, how are you? Yin Haoyin slowly opens his eyes in her arms. Seeing her tears trickling down, he couldn't help but reach out and gently wipe her face. Hee, I didn't expect that there would be so many crouching tigers and hidden dragons in such a small medical center. What's more, I didn't expect that a 4-year-old child would actually have such terrifying strength. Truly worthy of being a woman that Wang Ye fancies. If such a bloodline were to give birth to Wang Ye's son, I'm afraid that his talent would be even more unimaginable. Fortunately, I've never underestimated a little child, and I've brought enough manpower this time. Otherwise, we might really fail miserably. Not far away, a slightly chubby middle-aged man looked down at the few people in front of him. His face was filled with fear and excitement. This person is Jin Wangye's most capable and trusted aide, the leader of the Death Warriors, the peak heaven stage Zhu Hai. Beside him stood a few black-clothed men. Every one of them was at least heaven rank. More than half of them were heaven rank and above. In other words, half of the people here had higher cultivation bases than Xiaobao. In the middle of the encirclement of these men of death are the people of the Ink camp who have been beaten to the point of vomiting blood and are practically unable to get up. If not, everyone in the Ink camp would be prepared with the life-saving drafts that Mayan had given them. It was likely that there were already several corpses here. Xiao Bao's little face is cold and solemn. He quickly takes out the draft and pours it into Yin Haoyin's mouth. The vitality that had disappeared from Yin Haoyin's body immediately began to slowly return. Seeing this scene, Zhu Hai's eyes burned hotter and hotter. There's actually such a miraculous life-saving draft in this world. Haha. If these drafts all belong to Wangye in the future, there's no need to worry about not succeeding. How to get a steady stream of special drafts. Chapter 393. In this way, His Highness's imperial ambition was just around the corner. The more he thinks about it, the brighter Zhu Hai's eyes become. If it's said that he was originally somewhat dissatisfied with a woman who has lost her innocence and has given birth to a child becoming Jin Wangfei, but now, he couldn't wait to hope that Jun Mayan could become their princess. Cough. Cough cough. Who are you people? Xin Jinglin climbed up from the ground and pulled Xiaobao behind him, fiercely glaring at Zhu Hai. Why did you lay your hands on Xiaobao and my Shen family? Zhu Hai disdainfully glanced at Xin Jinglin. How could he put a mere earth-rank martial artist in his eyes? His gaze flashed past little Bao who was behind Xin Jinglin, and a wisp of fear and dread flashed past his eyes. A 4-year-old child's cultivation was already at the heaven stage. Given time, if this person was allowed to live, he would definitely become a great threat to His Highness. The light in Zhu Hai's eyes darkens. A ruthless and malevolent killing intent emerges in his eyes. If you want to blame someone, then you can only blame him for being Jun Mayan's child. Our Jin Wangye intends to marry Miss Jun as his Wangfei. As the dignified Wangfei of Huangyao country, how could she have an illegitimate child who can't even be seen in public? So, we can only kill you before His Highness and the new princess get married. We have to erase your existence. Henceforth, Jin Wangfei is innocent. No one will know that she once had a son. Hearing Zhu Hai's words, Xiao Bao's eyes suddenly became like a little beast whose reverse scale had been touched. His icy blue eyes instantly turned slightly blood red. As he walked forward step by step, his thick, profound energy, bringing along an icy cold aura, spread around his small body. As the distance between him and Zhu Hai grew shorter and shorter, a powerful and suffocating pressure came crashing down on them. Zhu Hai's expression abruptly changed. No, this is impossible. He's only a mid-tier heaven rank, and I'm at the peak of heaven rank. How could I be suppressed instead? He desperately circulated his Xian Qi, wanting to move, but his entire body seemed to be imprisoned by an invisible force. He couldn't move at all. The surrounding people were even more dumbfounded. That was because with every step Little Treasure took, the limestone beneath his feet would shatter inch by inch. A terrifying pressure spread in the air, causing the faces of the men in black to turn pale. Some of the weaker ones even had blood trickling down the corners of their mouths. All of this was caused by a 4-year-old child. Bang! The tiny palm pushed out in the air, and a profound energy that was as majestic as a violent gale and a huge wave directly attacked Zhu Hai. A loud sound accompanied by the sound of bones shattering assaulted everyone's eardrums. Dust and smoke rose in all directions, and gravel flew everywhere. There was also a strong smell of blood that permeated the tip of one's nose. When the dust settled, Zhu Hai's pale face was revealed. In front of him, there was a corpse that could not be any more dead than it already was. All the bones in Zhu Hai's body broke, and he vomited blood, dyeing the lower half of his body red. Zhu Hai looked at the corpse at his feet, then at Xiaobao. He could no longer conceal the shock on his face. If he hadn't used the excruciating pain to break free from the pressure at the critical moment and dragged someone over to be his scapegoat, he would have died. Now, the one who died without a complete corpse was probably him. However, the person he used as a scapegoat was also a Heaven Stage advanced ranker. They are the elites among the elites of Jin Wangfu's Death Warriors. How could he die so easily in the hands of a child? Chapter 394. In the battle just now, he had already killed 3 early Heaven Stage, black-clothed men. More than half of his profound chi had already been consumed. Earlier, in order to kill Zhu Hai, he had even used up all the profound energy in his body. Now, his small body didn't have the slightest bit of strength, and he was practically an arrow at the end of its flight. Zhu Hai quickly recovered from his terror. Ha! Ha ha! No matter how formidable you are, no matter how extraordinary you are, you're only a child in the end, just a single person. If I don't kill you today, then there'll surely be no end of trouble in the future. Go. Kill everyone in this family. Don't leave anyone alive. Zhu Hai's voice had just fallen when Shen Jinglin suddenly took a step forward and picked up Xiao Bao, stuffing him into Feng Haitang's arms. Go. Immediately take Xiao Bao and leave this place. Go find Diming Ju. I'm not leaving. Xiao Bao shouted loudly and struggled with all his might. Uncle, the one they want to kill is me. I will never leave. Yang Qin said that one should be responsible for one's own actions. How could Xiao Bao let others get hurt or even die for him? Haitang, as Yin Yang Gij, I order you to immediately take Xiao Bao away. If you're not obedient, when Mayan comes back, I'll immediately have her expel you from the clinic. Feng Haitang hugged Xiao Bao tightly, her eyes turning red. She opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but she saw Yin Haoyin's determined gaze. That gaze was clearly saying, "Little Master is the most important, you must protect him well." Even the people of the Ink Camp stand up one by one. Little Master, the existence of our Ink Camp is to protect you. We usually eat and do nothing, and have never sacrificed our morals for others. This time, we finally want to be noble for once. How can you not fulfill our wish? Ahem. Little Master, if there's a next life, remember to take us as your subordinates. When you see the young miss, help us tell her that we're useless and didn't protect Little Master well. Instead, Little Master has to protect us. But we tried our best. Even if we have to risk our lives, we won't let anything happen to the young master. One by one, the people who were on the verge of collapse stood up, blocking in front of Xiao Bao and Feng Haitang. Feng Haitang could no longer hold back her tears, and they gushed out of her eyes. Xiao Bao struggled to jump down, but Feng Haitang held him firmly, not letting him leave. Zhu Hai smiled coldly and said, "Just the likes of trash like you all want to stop us? Hoo-hoo, dream on. Charge." The black-clothed man did not say a word and rushed over like lightning. 5 of them charged straight at Feng Haitang. Without hesitation, Feng Haitang turned around and rushed to the door. The people of the Ink Camp have already pounced forward, using their own bodies to firmly block those people who tried to attack Xiao Bao. Puff! Blood splattered everywhere. Even Feng Haitang was hit in the back. Xiao Bao's eyes were completely red, and his little face revealed a crazy killing intent. Meanwhile, Zhu Hai had already swept past everyone's heads and reached out to grab Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao was grabbed by the neck and pulled out of Feng Haitang's arms. Feng Haitang screamed and threw herself at him, but was kicked away by Zhu Hai. Zhu Hai gripped Xiao Bao's neck and slowly opened his mouth, revealing his white teeth. Suddenly, the complacency and excitement in Zhu Hai's eyes turned into amazement in a split second. Immediately after, he saw his body soar into the air, as if he was being comforted by an invisible force floating in the air. And Xiao Bao's body fell into a familiar embrace. Chapter 395. The man's cold aura assaulted her face and drilled into her nose. Little Treasure's body trembled slightly. After a long while, his blood-red eyes slowly returned to their icy blue color. Then, he heard the man's rare low and gentle voice. "Don't worry, I won't let them hurt you." Xiao Bao blankly stares at the man in front of him, his line of sight focusing little by little. Finally, Di Mingju's incomparably handsome face comes into view. His eyes, which had regained their icy blue color, were now a little red. She could no longer hold back her tears, and they fell from her eyes. Stop crying. How can a man shed tears? Di Mingju frowns, his tone disgusted, but his movements are gentle as he personally wipes away his tears. Xiaobao wrapped her arms around his neck and buried her head in his neck. His tiny body trembled slightly. Scalding hot tears flow down his collar and fall on Di Mingju's skin, scalding his heart to the point that it's somewhat sour. It was really strange. The former Di Mingju was clearly so cold and heartless, never moved by anyone's joy, anger, sorrow, or joy. But facing Mayan, facing this little fellow, he couldn't help but dote on her from the bottom of his heart. Even if this little guy is the son of Mu Yan's ex-husband that he hates. Di Mingju clumsily and gently pats Xiaobao's back. His voice is rare and gentle. All right, don't cry. Daddy will definitely not let these people who bullied you off. Xiaobao raises his still tear-stained little face, sobbing as he says, but the ink camp, uncle, they all suffered heavy injuries. It's all because of Xiaobao. Little master, we're fine. She hears Feng Haitong's somewhat weak voice. We have a lot of drafts that Miss left behind. We won't die? Ahem. That's right. Even if we still have some injuries now, as long as the young Miss comes back and treats us, we will immediately be full of vigor and vitality. It might even be a blessing in disguise. The leader of the ink camp who had followed Xiaobao this time, Guan, who says with a grin. The others also wiped the blood from the corners of their mouths to show that they were fine. Even Han Yi and Ing Mei can't help but sigh at the mystical drafts that Miss Mayan has refined. The injuries these people had suffered were actually very serious. Even in the cultivation continent, he might die. What's more, it's the Yinwu continent, where there's no spiritual power to restore the body on its own. However, after drinking the draft that Mayan had prepared for them, they actually managed to save their lives. Although his injuries were still quite severe. But as they said, as long as they wait for Mu Yin to come back and use the zither to treat them, they can be healed at any time. Seeing that the people of the ink camp are all alive and well, Jujio Shin Jinglin swaggered over, touching his face tenderly. Only then did Xiaobao's tense body slowly relax. As for those black-clothed men, they've already been dealt with by Ing Mei and Han Yi. All of them either had their arms and legs broken, or had their intestines pierced and their bones shattered. They wouldn't die immediately, but the pain they suffered was 1,000 times worse than death. Especially Ing Mei. She was already regretting that she did not protect Miss June well, resulting in her disappearance. Even Miss June's only flesh and blood, her little master, was almost killed. This caused the ruthlessness and cruelty in her to suddenly soar. All his anger was vented on these black-clothed men. Chapter 396. However, Zhu Hai isn't the slightest bit pleasantly surprised. On the contrary, he's so scared that his face is drained of blood, and his whole body is shaking like a sieve. Xiaobao's cold gaze sweeps around, and finally falls on Zhu Hai. A bone-chilling cold. They took Nyangqin away. Di Mingju's eyes darken, and he raises his hand. Zhu Hai has already fallen from the sky in front of him. As soon as his feet touch the ground, Zhu Hai turns around and wants to run. Zheng! A cold light flashes, and Ing Mei's sword is unsheathed, sweeping across. Zhu Hai lets out a mournful scream, and falls to the ground. One of his feet flies out, landing in the grass at the side. Blood gushes out like a tide. With such a large amount of blood loss, it would only take a moment for him to die. However, that wound is very strange. After being cut, it slowly turns into ice. The flow of blood also gradually stops. What's left for Zhu Hai is only bone-piercing pain. You can't kill me. I'm Jin Wangye's trusted subordinate. If you kill me, Huang Yao and Jin Wangye will never let you off. Jin Wangye? Di Mingju slowly reads out those 3 words. Yin Haoyan steps forward, gesturing with his hands. It's Jin Wangye, who once wanted to marry Miss as a side consort in Xi'an. Listening to Feng Haitong's translation, Shun Jinglin flies into a rage. What bullshit, Wangye? You actually want my sister to be a concubine. Keep dreaming. As he speaks, he bitterly punches Zhu Hai. Pitiful Zhu Hai, a peak heaven stage expert, is completely unable to resist the attack of Shun Jinglin, an early Earth stage. He can't even circulate his mysterious energy to resist. His face is solidly punched, and his nose is instantly broken. 2 of his teeth are spat out. Deming Ju's voice is still cold and aloof, as if there's not a trace of human emotion in it. What does your master want to do by taking Mayan away? Zhu Hai's heart is filled with hatred, but he's also extremely afraid. Hearing the question, he says in a trembling voice, Wang Ye sincerely admires Miss June. This time, she's not some side consort. Rather, he wants to marry her as his princess. At most, in another 7 days, everyone in the world will know that Jin Wangfei is June Mayan. This kind of enormous glory, I think there's no woman in the world who wouldn't want it. Fuck you. There's not a single woman who doesn't want you. Shin Jinglin roared once again, ruthlessly stomping on Zhu Hai's still intact foot. With a cracking sound, the leg bone broke. Zhu Hai once again let out a blood-curdling scream like a pig being slaughtered. After screaming, he fiercely glares at Shin Jinglin and Deming Ju. I don't know who you people are. However, you won't have a good ending for attacking me. Do you know what kind of person Jin Wangye is? What kind of power does it have? Hee. What's more, even if you kill me, Junmu Yin is destined to become Wangye's woman. Even if she wants to resist, how could she possibly escape from Wangye's grasp? Perhaps she's already under our prince's body right now. Ha ha ha. Ah. Suddenly, Zhu Hai's wild laughter turned into a heart-wrenching scream. Bloody holes appeared on his flesh at a speed visible to the naked eye. Inside, fiery red things that looked like bugs crawled out. Chapter 397. After the skin, it's the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. In just the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, Zhu Hai's whole body is already riddled with holes, and he doesn't even look human. No, his appearance is even more terrifying than the ghost's mutilated corpse. At first, he could still scream, but later on, he goes in less and exhales more. But he can't die, and can only bear this kind of pain all the time. Kill me. I beg you. Kill me, woo woo woo. Later on, his tongue and throat are also corroded by the little fiery bugs, and he can no longer make the slightest sound. But even so, he's still not dead. Jun Shang. Han Yi kneels down. Jun Shang, please calm your anger. Jun Shang, please calm your anger. Ing Mei also kneels down. Shin Jinglin and the Ink Camp members, who don't know what's going on, only feel an instinctive fear. The earth seems to tremble. The air seems to be filled with the mournful cries of the creatures of heaven and earth. That's the will of the entire Yinwu continent being shaken, unable to bear it. Suddenly, Xiaobao reaches out and gently touches Deming Ju's eyes. Let's go find Yang Qin. Let's go now. The killing intent in Deming Ju's eyes slowly recede, and his gaze falls on Xiaobao. It's Xiaobao's voice that sobers him up, preventing the world from collapsing due to excessive use of power. And that sentence, go find Mayan. If anyone covets his Mayan, he will certainly make them die without a burial ground. The energy within Deming Ju's body surges, and he's just about to carry Xiaobao and set off. Suddenly, in the distant eastern skyline, a multicolored glow suddenly blooms. Immediately after, the originally unremarkable, even somewhat dusky moon in the sky suddenly becomes as dazzling as the scorching sun. But it's not a blazing light that burns people, but like flowing silver sand, bright and cool, pure and holy white light. Then, in the sky, around the moon, bright stars slowly appear one after another. These stars all have different colors. The only thing they have in common is that they're 10 times, 100 times brighter than the other stars. 1, 2, 3, 8, 9. A total of 9 stars appear in the sky. Coupled with the moonlight that's as bright as the blazing sun, the originally dark earth instantly becomes as bright as day. Everyone simultaneously looks up at the sky, stunned by this vision of heaven and earth. What is this? How could the moon be so bright and big? What were the 9 stars? Why haven't I seen it before? The 9 stars appeared one after another, then slowly moved in an arc, protecting the moon in the middle. Seeing this scene, Dimingju, Hanyi, and Ingmei suddenly widen their eyes, simply unable to believe what they're seeing. June, Lord? Isn't that the 9 stars linked to the moon? How could such a phenomenon appear? Don't tell me, the legendary spiritual vein that can match with Jun Shang has been born? But how is this possible? Wasn't it said that because of the uniqueness of the spirit vein, it was no longer possible for it to be born in the world? What's more, this Yinwu continent that doesn't even have spiritual energy. Dimingju's pupils slowly contract. Shun Jinglin's voice sounded in his ear. If I'm not wrong, that should be the direction of Huangyao's imperial city. The imperial city of Huangyao is also in the direction of Jin Wangfu. Junmayan is there. Who was the one who caused such a phenomenon? Chapter 398. Han Yi and Ing Mei almost immediately think of the same thing, and then they're incomparably sure. Woo! Suddenly, Little Treasure clutched his chest and let out a muffled groan. His little face scrunched up in both pain and panic. What's wrong? Dimingju quickly looks down. Xiaobao gasped for breath and said, Mother! I think Mother is in danger. Let's go quickly. Extreme worry caused his voice to change and tremble slightly. Hearing that, the complexions of Dimingju, Han Yi, and Ing Mei all change. Oh no, the reconstruction of the spiritual meridians will take at least 12 hours. During this period of time, Miss June can be said to be completely defenseless. Han Yi still hasn't finished his words. There's a flash of light and shadow in front of them, and the figures of Dimingju and Xiaobao have already disappeared without a trace. Han Yi and Ing Mei look at each other and promptly keep up. As for Zhu Hai, who was neither a human nor a ghost, he had all the bones in his body broken and thrown into the mass grave together with those black-clothed men. He believed that these people, who were more miserable and terrible than ghosts, would be able to get along well with the corpses in the mass grave. Although Shen Jinglin, Yan Haoyan and the others are also worried about Mu Yin, they know that even if they go, they would only be a burden. He could only stay in Tianyuan City and wait for news. Mayan is currently in an extremely mysterious state. As soon as the enormous power of the Tian Mo Qin flows into her body, she only feels a heart-wrenching pain. That kind of pain is even more terrible than when the Tian Mo Qin recognized him as its master. However, as the energy slowly gathered in his dantian, it flowed into his meridians bit by bit. The pain in his body was still there. However, his body had an even more distinct sense. It was as if he had turned into a baby and returned to his mother's body. In the warm and gentle amniotic fluid, her body grew little by little. From his bones, to his flesh and blood, to his skin, to his meridians, to his sea of qi, he was growing bit by bit. Following that, profound energy filled her qi sea, filling her body with strength. However, there's still a lot of power pouring into her from the Tian Mo Qin. Her body was also constantly changing. In his lower abdomen, a vortex slowly formed in his qi sea. It dispersed and condensed again and again. Then, it slowly formed a mysterious place. That was the dantian. Cultivators would only have a dantian when they circulated and stored spiritual energy. However, when an ordinary person reached the peak of the Xiantian realm and endured the lightning tribulation, they would eventually reach the body-forging stage. The sea of qi would disappear and turn into the dantian. The Xian qi could no longer be stored and could only be stored in the spiritual power. However, a dantian and a qi sea have formed in Mayan's lower abdomen. Her Xian qi was still full and had reached the high level of pre-celestial. The spiritual power in the space also began to frantically rush into Mu Yan's body and gather in her dantian. At this moment, Mayan has become the only practitioner in the Yinwu continent who practices both profound and spiritual cultivation. However, everything was far from over. After the dantian is formed, the formidable power of the Tian Mo Qin begins to wreak havoc inside Mayan's body. His meridians were torn apart bit by bit, and then healed bit by bit. The pain was simply indescribable. Those who endured it would really want to die immediately. However, Mu Yin thinks of Xiao Bao, thinks of her brother Xin Jinglin, and also thinks of Di Mingju. She originally thought that coming to Jin Wangfu this time wouldn't be dangerous. Not only did he rescue Liu Beiyu, he could also investigate the actual situation of Tiandao sect. Chapter 399. She can't die. Even if it's painful, she absolutely has to grit her teeth and endure it. Under the guidance of Mayan's consciousness, the frenzied and disorderly meridians slowly converge into a bundle, gurgling through her body. Liu Beiyu and Bai Yichen, who are at a loss of what to do, are shocked to find that the surface of Mayan's skin, which was still constantly oozing blood, begins to sparkle with a lustrous light. The bloodstains covering Mayan's clothes, even the bloodstains on her clothes, slowly disappear under this light. It's as if Mayan's body has absorbed it. Brother Bai, you look, Master's meridians. The two look down and see that Mayan's exposed meridians are slowly beginning to change color. Red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, purple, gray, brown. The 9 colors are constantly changing. At first, the meridians still look sinister, but slowly, these colors turn transparent. Then, they all turn lustrous white. Bai Yichen subconsciously glances out the window. Yes, lustrous white, just like the moonlight outside the window. He sees that the moon in the sky is getting brighter and brighter, bigger and bigger. The bright moonlight sprinkles down, making the world as bright as day. The entire Jin Wangfu also runs out because of this unusual movement. As the moonlight brightens, the 9 stars surround the moon. The lustrous white meridians floating on the surface of Mayan's skin slowly disappear. But the light on her body is getting brighter and brighter. Even if it's already as bright as day outside, the brightness in this room already makes people feel that it's unusual. Both Bai Yichen and Liu Beiyu reveal worried expressions. In this way, Jin Wangye is bound to find something strange. Just as they're thinking this, the door is suddenly pushed open. Jin Wangye and his trusted subordinates burst in with large strides. When he sees the scene in the room, Jin Wangye gapes in shock, his eyes wide open. Liu Beiyu and Bai Yichen are close, so they can't see clearly. But Jin Wangye, who is standing at the door, can clearly see that behind Mayan, there seems to be a halo shrouding her. Lustrous white, beautiful, holy, and flawless. Just like the bright moon in the sky. There are 2 moons in the world, one hanging high in the sky, guarded by 9 stars. The other is behind Mayan, radiating brilliance, like a goddess descending to earth. What does it mean? As Jin Wangye watches, his breathing slowly becomes heavy, his eyes bursting with a greedy light of determination to win. At this very moment, the entire Yinwu continent, or perhaps everyone in the 3 realms, has been turned upside down because of the descent of this vision. Huangyao country, Tiandao sect. Late at night, on the highest peak of the Tiandao sect, it should have been quiet and desolate. But now, almost all of the core members of the Tiandao sect were standing on top. They watched the strange phenomenon in the night sky in shock. Why is there such a phenomenon in the world? There must be a reason behind this. Could it be that the world is going to be chaotic soon? As he spoke, the 9 stars surrounding the moon began to move at an extremely slow speed. Faint rays of light were released from the 9 stars and connected to the silver moon. 9 stars and moon. The night was as dark as day. Suddenly, everyone on Lingyun Peak felt the celestial qi in their bodies stirring. It was as if it wanted to devour something greedily, but it also seemed like it wanted to surrender. Every inch of his meridians felt like they were being cleansed and burned. Just when everyone was bewildered, the sound of something tearing through the air suddenly came from Lingyun Peak. Chapter 400. A figure flew out from the hole and landed in front of everyone. The people of Tiandao sect were shocked at first, but when they saw who it was, they immediately revealed expressions of shock and respect. "Greetings, ancestor." Everyone knelt down. Someone else couldn't help but ask, "Ancestor, didn't you say that you're going to go into death seclusion? Why did he suddenly appear?" The one who spoke was the sect master of the Tiandao sect. In the Yinwu continent, He can be said to be a person with monstrous power and influence. With a stomp of his foot, he can shake the earth 3 times. However, when faced with the white-haired old man who looked like an ordinary middle-aged man, he was extremely respectful and did not dare to show the slightest bit of disrespect. The old man ignored them and looked up at the 9 stars and moon in the night sky. A pair of deep and turbid eyes began to turn red bit by bit, burning with a greedy and excited desire. Even his originally steady breathing became heavy due to excitement. It's this power. It's this power that can help me break through my shackles. I don't know what this power is, but as long as I use it, I'll definitely be able to overcome the lightning tribulation and ascend to the cultivation world. Ha ha ha, the heavens really don't want me to die. The heavens haven't forsaken me. The old man muttered to himself. His voice was so soft that no one could hear him clearly. However, his chaotic aura and excited tone aroused the curiosity of the people of the Tiandao sect. Just what was so strange about this phenomenon that it could cause the usually expressionless ancestor to be so agitated? All members of the Tiandao sect, listen up. Everyone immediately lowered their heads and agreed. Old ancestor, please give us your instructions. No one in the Tiandao sect dares to disobey. From now on, no matter the cost, you must find the source of this phenomenon. It doesn't matter if it's a human, a beast, or an object. Such a treasure must fall into the hands of our Tiandao sect. Everyone from Tiandao sect was stunned at first. Then they immediately replied, yes, old ancestor. Looking at the direction in which this vision is rising, it seems to be at the border between Huangyao country and Qiyan country. Let's immediately spread out our manpower and go investigate. Jingchang country, Imperial Palace. What is this? Gong Qinshuet didn't even put on her clothes properly as she hurriedly ran out of the palace. Looking at the moon and stars in the sky that were getting bigger and bigger, she let out a cry of surprise. Someone's aura was rapidly approaching. Gong Qinshuet knew that it was her senior brother, Jin Feng, Yinwu Continent's #1 alchemist, Tiandao sect's genius and treasure. Senior brother, what is this? Gong Qinshuet knows that Jin Feng's origins are very mysterious. The things he knows are far more than the people of the Yinwu continent. Jin Feng's position in Tiandao sect was even higher than Tiandao sect's sect master. But no matter how mysterious or powerful he was, so what? This was just a dog that had been bewitched by his charm and was dead set on him. Feeling Jin Feng's adoring gaze, Gong Qinshuet felt a trace of pride in her heart. However, his face revealed an expression of worship and complete trust. Jin Feng's eyes were filled with shock after seeing the strange phenomenon. Hearing Gong Qinshue's question, he frowned slightly. 9 stars linked to the moon. I've only heard of such a phenomenon, but I've never seen it. However, I can feel that this power is very powerful and very special. Jin Feng slowly turned his head and looked at Gong Qinshuet. His eyes were filled with affection and fervor. Junior sister, do you still remember the immortal soul fetus that you fancied? Chapter 401. Although Jin Feng has never seen an immortal fetus, he has obtained the blood of the mother of the immortal fetus. The power contained in that blood makes Jin Feng so excited that he almost forgets himself and jumps up. Because the power contained in that blood is not only pure and powerful, but also transcends this world. If Gong Qinshuet could seize this power, why would she worry about not being able to cross the tribulation and ascend? She just didn't expect that the immortal fetus and the pregnant woman would ultimately disappear without a trace. When Gong Qinshuet hears Jin Feng's words, her beautiful face distorts for a moment. Not obtaining that immortal fetus is a lifelong pain for her. At that time, she thought that the woman was just a weak girl who hadn't even reached Huang's stage. It would be a simple matter for that woman's relatives to dig out the child in her belly, who knew that there would be unexpected complications, causing her to lose the best opportunity to advance in vain. Gong Qinshuet takes a deep breath, forcefully suppressing the unwillingness and resentment in her heart. Senior brother, why did you suddenly mention this? Jin Feng says, I feel that the power of this 9 stars and moon seems to be exactly the same as the power of the blood you brought back that day. If I'm not mistaken, the The person who caused this vision is probably related to the immortal fetus and the mother. Heh. Gong Qinxue inhales a breath of cold air. Her eyes suddenly widen. Senior brother. You mean that woman and the immortal fetus are still alive? It's very possible. Jin Feng's eyes flash with a scorching light. Even if they aren't, as long as we find the source of that power, junior sister, you still have a 90% chance of crossing the Thunder Tribulation and ascending to the Xiujin continent. At that time, junior sister and I can. Jin Feng speaks with deep affection, but Gong Qinxue doesn't listen to a single word. In her mind, there's only the immortal fetus that's still alive. If she finds that immortal fetus and the mother, no, she must find that immortal fetus and refine it into a puppet, because that immortal fetus should belong to her. It should be the stepping stone for her, Gong Qinshue's advancement. Compared to the vision seen in the Yinwu continent, the Xiujin continent and the Xiuxian continent haven't reached the level where night is as dark as day. However, the shock that some people on these two continents receive is far greater than the people of Yinwu continent. Because the people of the Yinwu continent don't know what it represents, but many people from these two continents do. Especially the Xiuxian continent, which stood at the pinnacle of the three realms. In the night sky, the scene of the 9 stars and the moon was faintly discernible. The bright moonlight shone on the ground, covering it with a layer of silver frost. The world that was filled with immortal qi was now shrouded in a mysterious veil. It gave people the illusion that they were in a fairyland. However, on the Xiuxian continent, almost everyone's faces were pale. At the peak of the polar domain, everyone stared at the bright moon in the distance, lost in thought. 9 stars linked to the moon. The stars and the moon vie for glory. Does this mean that the only moon's spiritual root that can match Junshang has appeared? Someone couldn't help but shout excitedly, Elder Chong, quickly make a divination to find out where the person with the moon's spiritual root is. You must find him and bring him back. Elder Chong, who has been called, has a very calm expression. His complexion doesn't change, it's only the appearance of a heavenly vision. It doesn't mean that the moon's spiritual root will definitely appear. Why be so anxious? Chapter 402. Jun Shang's destined woman is Miss June. Now that the 9 stars and the moon has appeared, was it caused by Miss June originally? This should be a very happy matter. A moon's spiritual root that can match Jun Shang's bloodline has finally appeared. But the problem is that Miss June's identity is that of a Shun musician. If it attracts the attention of others and her identity as a Shun musician is discovered, the consequences are simply unthinkable. The people of the polar domain are excited. Suddenly, the space in front of them fluctuates. Immediately, the figures of several women appear between the light and shadow, vivid and lifelike. This woman is dressed in white, her face covered with white gauze. Her whole body is tall and slender. Her temperament is otherworldly and noble. It's obviously just a shadow, but as soon as it appears, it gives people an incomparable sense of oppression. Behind the woman was a young woman with an exceptionally beautiful appearance. It is Long Qingwan who just came to the polar domain some time ago. Seeing this woman in white, the expressions of the people of the polar domain change. Among them, a few of the younger ones promptly bow and salute. Greetings to the master of the Tianyi men. I don't know why the master has descended. This master of the Tianyi men still seems to have a graceful figure, like a young girl. In fact, she has already lived for thousands of years. Today, half of the people standing on the summit of the polar domain are her juniors. The woman in white's gaze slowly sweeps over the people present. After a long time, she opens her mouth and says, "Everyone, there is one thing I must tell you. Just now, at the moment when the 9 stars and the moon appeared, the spirit bell that sealed the Shun musician's tomb rang without any wind. Do you know what this means?" Hearing the master of the Tianyi men's words, the pupils of several people in the polar domain suddenly contract. The panic and fear on their faces can't be concealed no matter what. There are also some people who are at a loss, their faces puzzled. Elder Chong and the others secretly look at each other, their faces revealing worry. They only hear the woman in white continue. 1,000 years ago, the remnant of the Shun musicians, Bailey Yinlu, retaliated on her deathbed, leaving behind the most poisonous curse. The fire of the Shun musicians has already been sown in the three realms. One day, that spark will set the prairie ablaze, burning the three realms to nothing. On that day, no one who participated in that battle will be spared. Their bodies will perish and their souls will disappear, consigned to eternal damnation. The woman's voice was cold and calm, but it was as if her words had smashed into everyone's ears. The faces of several people standing on the peak of the polar domain mountain turned pale inch by inch. Their eyes were filled with fear and uneasiness, but in the end, they all turned ruthless. The master of the Tian Min sighs softly. Back then, we annihilated the Shun musicians in order to rid the three realms of evil, without the slightest bit of selfishness. Today, for the peace of the three realms, we will never allow the remnants of the Shun musicians to survive. Not bad. Someone immediately agrees. The Shun musicians are demons that break the balance of the three realms and bring disaster upon themselves. They shouldn't exist in this world. We are exterminating them for the sake of all living beings in the world. Since she is a remnant of the Shun musicians, then she is the descendant of the demons. How can she be allowed to live in this world? Long Qingwan unhurriedly takes a step forward and says, "Everyone, have you ever wondered why the spirit clock that sealed the Shun musicians would ring on its own during the 9 stars and moon? Oh, don't tell me that the person who possesses the moon's spiritual root is a remnant of the Shun musicians? How is this possible? The moon's spirit root is the only bloodline that is compatible with our Lord." Chapter 403. Lung Qingwan's eyes flashed with a trace of displeasure and jealousy. In her heart, she was the only one in the world who could match up to the Supreme Emperor. That person with the moon's spiritual root, what was he? Even if he was a descendant of the Shun musicians, how could he be compared to her? The sect master of Tian Min smiled faintly with a hint of coldness. What is the identity of the emperor? How could an ordinary woman be a match for him? What's more, if that person with the moon's spiritual root really is a remnant of the Shun musicians, and let her become the mistress of the polar domain, have you ever thought about your chances of survival? As these words came out, the complexions of several people in the polar domain greatly changed. Elder Chang finally couldn't stand it anymore. He takes a step forward and sneers, "Master Long, judging who is a descendant of the Shun musician just by the time the ghost bell rings, isn't it too arbitrary? What's more, what kind of mistress will my G domain marry? And who our Jun Shang wants to match? When has it ever been Tian Min's turn to ask?" The atmosphere instantly became a little awkward. The face of the Tian Min's sect master sank at once. Lung Qingwan's face was even more distorted. After a long while, she flicks her sleeves. "In any case, my Tian Min will never let off any Shun musician remnant. I would rather wrongly kill 1,000 than let off one. As for your polar domain, take care of yourselves. Please send my regards to the emperor." After saying that, a light and shadow flashed in the air, and the illusory figures all drifted away. At this moment, the 9 stars and moon in the sky was finally completed. The strange phenomenon in the sky slowly began to fade, and the day turned back into night. The ever-changing expressions of everyone in the polar domain were also slowly concealed in the darkness. Huangyao Country, Jin Wangfu. Jin Wang's sudden intrusion catches Liu Beiyu and by Ichin off guard, especially when his greedy gaze falls on Mu Yin, whose entire body is emitting a silver light. It makes their hearts sink even more. Jin Wang steps forward step by step. His gaze seems to burn anxiously on the girl's pure and holy face. When he reaches out to touch Mayan's face, Liu Beiyu ruthlessly bumps into him. "Don't touch my master." However, when Liu Beiyu's palm, which contains all of his internal force, hits Jin Wang, not only does it fail to push him away instead, his face suddenly turned pale, and he bounced back a few steps. He felt a sharp pain in his chest, and blood almost seeped out of the corner of his mouth. Bai Ichin's pupils contract. His eyes are filled with graveness as he looks at Jin Wang. Mayan once told him to be careful of Jin Wang's hidden strength. He's far more frightening than what he appears on the surface. At that time, he didn't take it to heart. But now it seems that Jin Wang's strength is actually far higher than his. Jin Wang, on the other hand, seems as if he doesn't notice their existence at all. His gaze falls on Mayan, infatuated. The hand that was knocked away by Liu Beiyu doesn't stretch out again. Instead, he presses it against the edge of the bed, then slowly leans over and kisses Mayan's light pink lips. "Don't you dare touch my master." Cough, cough. Liu Beiyu wants to rush up, but after struggling for a bit, he falls to the ground. Bai Yichen pressed his hand on the hilt of his sword, the veins on the back of his hand bulging. Seeing that Jin Wang's face is getting closer and closer to Mayan, suddenly, there's a burst of dazzling white light. Jin Wangya lets out a muffled groan, and his whole body is sent flying several meters away, falling to the ground. When he raised his head, his handsome face was slightly distorted because of the pain, and there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. However, the light in his eyes was getting hotter and hotter. Chapter 404. Master! Liu Beiyu promptly rushes over and stands by Mayan's bedside, fiercely glaring at Jin Wangya. Jin Wangya wipes the blood from the corner of his mouth and slowly gets up. His line of sight turns and falls on Liu Beiyu and Bai Yichen. "Ah, Liu Beiyu, how did you escape from the dungeon?" "Yichen, how could you be here?" Liu Beiyu's face is flushed, firmly guarding Mayan's window, not saying a word. Bai Yichen slightly bows and says, "Reporting to Wangya, this subordinate found traces of Liu Beiyu at night and tracked him here, but a sudden vision occurred. Before I could deal with it, Wangya came over." Jin Wang slightly narrows his eyes. Is that so? His tone can't be said to be believing, but it can't be said that he doesn't believe. Bai Yichen's hands hanging by his side slightly clench into fists. This subordinate will send Liu Beiyu back to the dungeon. That won't be necessary. Jin Wang reveals a meaningful smile. Tomorrow is Bin Wang's wedding day, and he is Bin Wang's new Wangfei's apprentice. Naturally, he has to stay to observe the ceremony. Bai Yichen suddenly widens his eyes, almost unable to control his expression. Liu Beiyu directly shouts, "Dream on. My master will never marry you. Just based on a toad like you, you want to be worthy of my master." Bah! Jin Wang's eyes become stern, but he doesn't get angry. Instead, he sneers, "Wait until tomorrow, when Mayan becomes Bin Wang's woman and enjoys herself on Bin Wang's bed. You will know whether or not Bin Wang is dreaming." Saying that, he turns around and leaves. At the door, he suddenly stops. "Yichen, what do you still want to stay in this room for? Don't tell me you're also acquainted with Mayan?" Bai Yichen's hand tightens on his sword, but he still walks out. The door is slammed shut, and all the windows are also closed. Liu Beiyu promptly rushes over, wanting to open the door, but he finds that it's tightly shut. Even if he exhausts all of his mysterious energy, he still wouldn't be able to open it. Liu Beiyu turns his head in panic and sees that Mayan is still unconscious on the bed. The silver light has already receded from her body. His hands tightly clench into fists. He would definitely protect his master, even if he had to die. Outside the room, Jin Wang looks at the confidants around him and coldly says, "You're not allowed to mention what you saw today to anyone. Otherwise, you'll be killed without mercy. Do you understand?" "Yes, Prince." Only then does Jin Wang's line of sight fall on Bai Yichen. Bai Yichen's voice was calm as he said, "This subordinate will not say a word to anyone. Yichen, I naturally believe in your trustworthiness." Jin Wang smiles. "Next, Bin Wang needs you to do something. Help me send a letter to the palace and give it to my brother. Ask him to attend this prince's wedding." "Me?" Bai Yichen looked surprised. He had never been to the imperial palace of Huangyao country. Moreover, he doesn't want to leave Jin Wangfu at all right now. Otherwise, what would Mayan do? Jin Wang's smile deepens, naturally. "In this Wangfu, the one I trust the most is you, Yichen. Sending a letter to the imperial palace is such an important matter, so of course I can only leave it to you. Rest assured, as long as Yichen comes back before noon, you will definitely be able to attend Bin Wang and Mayan's wedding." Bai Yichen tightly wrinkles his brows, not answering. Jin Wang's complexion sinks, and he faintly says, "Or are you saying that you were deceiving Bin Wang just now?" Chapter 405. You appeared in Mayan's room because you had an affair with her? Hee hee, if that's the case, then Ben Wang doesn't mind making Mayan my woman right now. With that, he makes a gesture of turning around to go in. Bai Yichen grits his teeth. Wang Ye must be joking. How could this subordinate know Wang Fei? I'm just worried that when this subordinate leaves the Wang Fu, there would be no one to protect Wang Ye's safety. Jin Wang smiles. You don't need to worry about this, Yichen. Come back quickly. Ben Wang and Mayan are waiting for you to come to the bridal chamber. Bai Yichen finally takes a look at the room, then turns around and leaves. As soon as it's 7 a.m., the door of the room is pushed open with a bang. Liu Beiyu is guarding Mayan's bedside. He's already in a daze, trembling with fear. As soon as he hears the sound, he immediately jumps up from the ground. He sees that there are maids, guards, and old maids, all kinds of people coming in one after another. The maids are all carrying trays, with all kinds of jewelry and bright red clothes on them. Everyone is dressed in an extremely festive manner. As soon as the old maid enters the door, she immediately shouts with a face full of smiles. Wang Fei, great joy ah. Liu Beiyu vigilantly looks at the newcomers and sternly says, Who let you in? Go out. Don't disturb my master's rest. The old maid who just spoke turns to look at the still sleeping Mayan. Her smile becomes more and more flattering. Today is Miss June and Wang Ye's big wedding day. This is a great honor and joy. How could it be a disturbance? Your Third Highness, please step aside. We will help Miss June change into her wedding clothes. The auspicious time waits for no one. It must not be delayed. Saying that, the old maid turns her head and picks up the bright red clothes, shaking them out. She exclaims, Look at this phoenix crown and red cloud cape. It's all woven from heavenly silk. It's not an exaggeration to say that it's priceless. Jin Wangya has never been so attentive to a woman. Not only did he officially marry her, he also specially sent someone to the Ghost City overnight to buy this wedding dress. Are you kidding me? Liu Beiyu angrily reaches out and pushes the old maid away. Stop dreaming. My master will not marry that perverted pervert. Make him scram. Ouch! The old maid screams and falls to the ground. The wedding dress in her hands also falls to the ground. Liu Beiyu lifted his foot to step on it, but just as he lifted his foot, however, he felt a powerful surge of profound energy rushing towards him. He let out a muffled groan and took a few steps back. His chi and blood surged, and he almost vomited blood. A pair of soap boots slowly walked forward and stopped in front of the wedding dress. It bent down and was picked up by a pair of bronze-colored hands. Liu Beiyu's line of sight slowly moves up, and what he sees is a seemingly ordinary face. However, Liu Beiyu's face paled when he felt the pressure emanating from this person. This one is Niejin. Today, I have come to welcome Wang Fei to dress and to perform the ceremony of husband and wife with Wang Yi. The man's voice was very calm, and there was no hostility on his face. Logically speaking, he should be very harmless. But Liu Beiyu's heart sinks little by little. Niejin and Zhu Hai are two of Jin Wang's most valued confidants. Both of them had reached the pinnacle of the innate realm. His hands were stained with countless lives. How could he protect his master with his weak strength? Didn't Jin Wangye say that he would let my master consider it for 7 days? Liu Beiyu withstands the pressure caused by Niejin. He straightens his neck and says, Don't tell me that the dignified Jin Wangye of Huangyao country wants to go back on his words and not keep to his word? Aren't you afraid of being ridiculed by the world? Chapter 406. He sneered, his eyes filled with disdain. His Highness did promise Miss June that he would give her 7 days to consider. But as early as yesterday, Miss June had already agreed to marry Wang Ye and become the new Wang Fei of Jin Wangfu. My family's Wang Ye admires Miss June. Since Miss June has already agreed, then naturally we should hold the wedding as soon as possible to avoid any accidents. You're talking nonsense. How could my master possibly agree? Why not? Nie Zheng's smile became even more contemptuous. In the end, Miss June is nothing more than someone from a small, inferior country like Qiyan. She doesn't have any power or influence, nor does she have any family background that can be shown in public. In fact, When he was young, his virginity was taken away, and he gave birth to a bastard. For such a woman to be able to marry my Wangya as the princess consort is a great blessing. When Miss June heard Prince's request, she was so happy that she shed tears of gratitude. She agreed to Prince's request on the spot and asked Prince to hold the wedding as soon as possible. That's why His Highness set the wedding for today. Liu Beiyu is so angry that his whole body trembles. How could these people be so shameless? Master had clearly not agreed to anything, but they could distort the truth like this. Haven't you noticed that my master is unconscious? Liu Beiyu stubbornly stays by Mayan's bed. Even if the wedding is to be held, shouldn't it be after my master wakes up? A deep and serene light flashed through Nie Zheng's eyes. Wangya has repeatedly exhorted that before Mayan wakes up, they must complete the wedding ceremony and the bridal chamber. This was also the reason why the wedding, which was supposed to be held in the evening, was brought forward to the morning. At that time, what's done is done. Even if someone knows about Mayan's uniqueness, she would already be Wangya's woman by then. The others were unwilling, but what could they do? The corners of Nie Zheng's mouth curled up, revealing a faintly discernible smile. The auspicious day and time have long been calculated. Even if Miss June is unconscious, it will not delay the wedding ceremony at all. Miss June wants to marry our prince so much. I'm sure that when she wakes up and finds out about this matter, she will only be happy and will absolutely not oppose it. After saying that, Nie Zheng waved his hand. 2 guards immediately stepped forward and grabbed Liu Beiyu. The old woman and the maid came to the bedside, ready to take off Mu Yan's clothes and put on a phoenix crown and a red cape for her. Don't you dare touch my master. Liu Beiyu's eyes turn red when he sees Mayan's outer garment being taken off. The profound energy on his body suddenly exploded. The 2 guards were only high earth stage. Caught off guard, they were forced to take a few steps back. Liu Beiyu stumbles as he rushes over, grabbing the old woman who profaned Mayan. He raised his hand and gave her 2 tight slaps on the face. Who told you to touch my master with your filthy hands? Ouch! Murder! Murder! The old woman screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Those maidservants are also kicked to the ground by Liu Beiyu, and the whole room is a mess. Liu Beiyu stoops down to carry Mayan on his back and immediately rushes out. However, he suddenly felt a tearing pain in his shoulder. Then, a thorn, accompanied by the smell of blood, pierced out from his left shoulder. Ah! A blood-curdling scream overflows from Liu Beiyu's mouth. Mayan, who was originally helped up, also falls back onto the bed. Blood drips from his shoulder, dripping onto Mayan's snow-white dress. It was like blooming red plum blossoms. However, this was not the end. Chapter 407. The thorns cut through his flesh and continue to move forward. It's like they're growing frantically. Then it turns in front of him and suddenly pierces through his other shoulder. Once again, it returns to Nie Zheng's hand. Nie Zheng holds both ends of the thorny vine with one hand and gently tugs. Liu Beiyu screams as he's dragged over. Nie Zheng looks at his pale and distorted face due to the pain and sneers. Overconfident thing. A waste from a third-rate small country. Even if I chop you up and feed you to my Wangfu's watchdog, you're still not qualified. You actually want to oppose our Wang Yehi. If you weren't Miss June's disciple, I'm afraid your dog life would have already been gone. Guess, if you died, would your Qi Yin country have the guts to come and settle accounts with our Wangya? The strength in his hand suddenly tightens. The thorns cut through flesh and bone, making a teeth-aching sizzling sound. Liu Beiyu's head is covered in cold sweat from the pain. His complexion is as pale as paper, and he can't even speak a complete sentence. Nie Zheng laughs heartily, patting his face with his blood-stained hand. Rest assured, stray dog, our Wangya won't kill you. Not only won't he kill you, but he'll also let you personally witness Miss June and our Wangya's wedding ceremony, and then the bridal chamber. After all, you're Miss June's only relative, and can be considered as a witness. Dream on. Liu Beiyu's whole body trembles in pain, but he clenches his teeth and enunciates each word. What does Li Jinting count as? He doesn't even deserve to carry my master's shoes. You dare to force my master to perform the ceremony. When Master wakes up, she'll definitely slaughter your Jin Wangfu until it bleeds, rivers of blood, dying without an intact corpse. Cough, cough, cough. Liu Beiyu's words make Nie Zheng's expression suddenly twist and turn gloomy. Thinking of the scene he saw last night, Nie Zheng's heart is also somewhat drumming. No one has ever been able to trigger such a heavenly vision. If this Junmayan wakes up, she really wouldn't want to marry Wang Ye no matter what. Then their Jin Wangfu might really not have a good time. Taking a deep breath, Nie Zheng laughed sinisterly. If it's just a wedding ceremony, perhaps Miss June will still resist. But what if her body is obtained by our prince? Do you think she can only accept her fate and follow our Wang Ye? Or her reputation will be ruined and she will never be able to marry again? Moreover, His Highness had expected such a situation to occur. Therefore, he made a backup plan. As long as that matter is done, no matter how fierce Jun Mayan's temper is, she can only obediently become the target of Wang Ye's oppression and slavery. How could there be any room for resistance? Thinking of this, the worry in Nie Zheng's eyes dissipated, and he coldly looked at the servant girl on the ground. How could these people dare to neglect? They immediately stepped forward to take off Mu Yan's clothes and change her into a bride's dress. Don't touch my master. Get lost. Scram. Liu Beiyu sees these people taking off Mayan's clothes, leaving only her undergarments. However, none of the men and women in the room avoided it. Even Nie Zhang is interested, his eyes burning as he looks at the snow-white skin on Mayan's hands and neck. He only feels his lower abdomen slightly tighten. Jin Wangye is famous for being a beauty, and the number of women that he has married into the Wangfu is innumerable. But very few people know that for Jin Wangye, these people are nothing more than playthings. Chapter 408. In fact, it was common for him to have sex with his concubines in front of his subordinates. Nie Zheng is one of Jin Wang's biggest confidants. He doesn't know how many times he's seen his woman's naked body. As long as Nie Zheng takes a second look, Jin Wang will directly reward them. That's because for Jin Wang, a woman is a good thing. But compared to his other ambitions, it's not enough at all. Nie Zheng licked his lips. In his mind, he thinks that once Jin Wang has squeezed out all of Jun Mayan's value, he will definitely ask her to come over and properly enjoy her. He had never seen such a devastatingly beautiful woman before, and he had never desired her so much. Soon, even his undergarments were about to be taken off. Nie Zheng couldn't help but swallow his saliva, his eyes burning. Liu Beiyu's eyes are crimson red, and he's practically gone mad. He simply doesn't care about the thorns on his shoulders, and suddenly rushes over. How dare you blaspheme my master? I'll kill you. Get lost. Get lost. Nie Zheng's face darkened as he exerted force in his hand. There's a snap, the sound of the meridians on Liu Beiyu's shoulder breaking. Liu Beiyu screams and falls to the ground. One of Nie Zheng's feet stepped on his face, and the thorny vines on his hands suddenly tightened. Haha, you don't want your hands anymore? Do you want to become a cripple? That's great. I'll fulfill your wish. After saying that, he retracted his hand and stomped on the ground. There was a cracking sound, and everyone's expression changed. The maidservants were even more shocked. Ah! Liu Beiyu issued a mournful scream. He couldn't hold on any longer and fainted. His hands hung limply by his side. From his shoulder blade to his fingers, every inch of bone was crushed by Nie Zheng. Take him away. Nie Zheng revealed a faint smile. Change him into new clothes and place him at the head table of the Wang Fei's paternal family. After all, this is the wedding of Wang Yi and the new Wang Fei. If Wang Fei's paternal family doesn't even have a guest, it would be inappropriate. Yes, my lord. Liu Beiyu is directly dragged away. The fresh blood left a bloody trail on the ground. It was a ghastly sight. Nie Zheng, however, laughed in an incomparably carefree manner. Then, his gaze landed on the girl on the bed. His breathing suddenly quickened. Looking at her up close, she finds out that Mayan is so beautiful. It was as if all the beauty of heaven and earth had been concentrated on this young girl. Her skin was as white as porcelain, her eyelashes were as long as fans, her lips were pink and tender, and her waist was so slender that he couldn't wrap his arms around it. Nie Zheng suddenly stretched out his hand. Give me the wedding dress. I'll wear it for her. Sir? Both the old maid and the servant girl were shocked. Nie Zheng revealed a cold smile. What? I can't do it? But she is the new princess after all. Heh. Nie Zheng sneered. So what if she's the new princess? When His Highness is tired of playing with it, he will still give it to us. What's more, which one of the women by Prince's side isn't someone we can casually touch? The guards all nodded, revealing lewd smiles. Jin Wangfu's favored concubines. Those are all extraordinarily beautiful women. They've also been assigned one before, and that taste is really not bad. Just like the woman who was driven out of Jin Wangfu this time. Although it was said that they were chased out, they were actually given to these people. Almost every family of the people who followed Jin Wang had several beautiful and charming women. They could play and abuse them at will, completely without any misgivings. This is also one of the reasons why they're so dead set on Jin Wang. Chapter 409. There were even people who laughed and said, Lord Nie's eyes are truly good. Since Lord Nie has taken a liking to it, naturally no one in the mansion would dare to snatch it. I'm sure that once His Highness is tired of it, it will be yours, Lord Nie's. Nie Zheng's eyes shone with excitement and greed. His hand slowly moves towards Mayan's lapel. However, before his fingertips could touch the skin that was smoother than tofu, a white light suddenly flashed before his eyes. Nie Zheng was caught off guard and his entire person was sent flying by a tremendous force. The qi and blood in his chest surged, and his qi was in so much pain that his face twisted. What's going on? Everyone was stunned by this turn of events. What had just happened? Nie Zheng was even more bewildered. What was that white light just now? What was that energy? How could it be so terrifying? It made him feel as if he didn't have the slightest ability to resist. But when he looked up, the girl on the bed was still sleeping peacefully without any change. The whole room was quiet, and there was nothing out of the ordinary. Nie Zheng frowned and stood up. His gaze is fixed on Mayan, who is lying on the bed. A trace of ruthlessness suddenly flashes through his eyes, and he steps forward again. He didn't believe that he couldn't handle an unconscious girl. However, before Nie Zheng could make a move, the door was pushed open. Everyone was taken aback when they saw the red-robed man standing outside the door. Then, they all knelt down. Greetings, Your Highness. Standing outside the door is unexpectedly Jin Wangye, who has already put on his wedding clothes. Following behind Jin Wangye is Bai Yiqian, who has already rushed back from the imperial palace to deliver the letter. Looking at the bloodstains on the ground, she thinks of Liu Beiyu, who had just been dragged away. Bai Yiqian gripped the hilt of his sword tightly. Liu Beiyu might not understand, but he was clear. Right now, Mu Yin was unconscious, so she should be advancing or breaking through. As long as she can endure this period of time, no one in this Jin Wangfu would be able to trap Mayan. Jin Wangye is also aware of this. That's why he's anxious to get married right away. Right now, the only thing he could do was to ensure Mu Yan's safety until the end of his breakthrough. Nie Zheng kneels on the ground, but he discovers that Jin Wang's fierce gaze has fallen on him, making him shiver as if he's sitting on pins and needles. Your Highness, this subordinate. Halfway through his words, Jin Wang interrupts him. This prince told you to bring people to change this prince's princess wedding dress, not to let you touch this prince's princess. Nie Zheng was startled. He looked up, his eyes filled with panic. Your Highness, Mu Yin and Bin Wang's previous concubines are completely different. If you dare to have improper thoughts in the future, then don't blame this king for being impolite. Meeting Jin Wang's bone-chilling eyes, Nie Zheng's whole body quivers, and he's so scared that his face turns white. In all these years, His Highness had never given him such a stern warning. It seems that Jun Mayan is different to Wangye. He actually wanted to lay his hands on Miss June and take advantage of her. Now that he thought about it, his vision went dark, and his soul almost flew out of his body. Your Highness, this subordinate was possessed for a moment. I won't dare to do it again. I won't dare to do it again. Jin Wang condescendingly looks at Nie Zheng as he kowtows. It wasn't until his forehead was bruised that he lightly said, immediately help Wang Fei change into the wedding dress. If you miss the auspicious time, All of you in this room will not be able to live. My Jin Wangfu doesn't raise trash. After leaving these words, Jin Wangye leaves. Chapter 410. Recalling the scene of Nie Zhang being bounced away, the maidservants and older women don't dare to take off Mayan's clothes again. He hastily helped her put on the phoenix coronet and red cape, using the red outer garment to cover the plain white inner garment underneath. The sound of swona and firecrackers could be heard from outside. The auspicious hour had arrived. Although the wedding was rushed, all the famous people of Huangyao country's eastern clear imperial city had been invited to attend. Jin Wangfu is bustling with people, bustling with noise and excitement. However, most of the people's faces were filled with doubt. How can Jin Wangye, who has always been known as a debauchee and a womanizer, suddenly get married? Before this, there wasn't even the slightest sign. Moreover, most people didn't even know who the princess was. Jin Wangye personally stands at the door, his posture casual as he salutes and thanks the guests coming and going. However, there was no respect or gratitude on his face. Even his tone and demeanor could be said to be neglectful. But who is Jin Wangye? That's the younger brother of the Emperor of Huangyao. His strength is out of the ordinary, and his power is monstrous. Who would dare to be picky about his attitude? For Jin Wangye to come out to greet them, they are already overwhelmed by the favor. With Jin Wangye's attitude, it's only when he sees a handsome youth with a sage-like demeanor that he greets him with large strides. Qingfeng greets martial uncle. As soon as the youth sees Jin Wang, he immediately salutes respectfully. Master Jin Feng has an important matter to attend to in Jingcheng country right now, so he's unable to come. He specially ordered this disciple to attend Master Uncle's wedding. Hearing that Jin Feng can't attend the wedding, a trace of regret flashes across Jin Wang's face. But Qing Feng smiled and said, "However, Master made me bring a gift for Martial Uncle. I believe that Martial Uncle will definitely like it. I just don't know." Shishu, who is always loitering around flowers, suddenly wants to marry a wife. What kind of beauty is he marrying? Ha ha ha. The auspicious hour is almost here. Qingfeng, you will know in a while. As the hour approaches, the entire hall of Jin Wangfu is packed with several hundred people. Every single one of them was a reputable figure in Donglin City. Even the Emperor of Huangyao country had sent a prince as a representative to attend the wedding. Invite the bride into the hall to bow. As soon as the announcer's voice faded away, a few people supported a girl in red and walked out. The girl was wearing a dazzling red dress. She wore a dazzling phoenix crown on her head. The phoenix coronet beaded curtain hung down, making the young girl's face faintly discernible. But even with the bead curtain, everyone could still see the young girl's face clearly. Hiss! She's really beautiful. She's a peerless beauty in the world and a fairy beyond the heavens. It's no wonder that such a dissolute person like Jin Wang is also willing to marry her. But this girl looks a little unfamiliar. I don't think I've seen her before in Huangyao country. Which family is she from? She can actually become the real Jin Wangfei. I'm so lucky. That's right. Each and every one of the women who follow Jin Wang don't have a name, and in the end, they don't even have a trace of them. For this girl to be able to become Jin Wangfei, presumably, her position in Jin Wang's mind is entirely different. But soon, everyone realized that something was wrong. Although the girl's face was faintly discernible, many people still noticed that her eyes were tightly shut. When he reached the front of the hall, he had to rely on the support of others. It was as if she couldn't move at all. What's going on? Why doesn't the bride seem to be aware? That's right. This person has no consciousness. How can he get married? Chapter 411. Jin Wang isn't the slightest bit annoyed when he hears everyone's comments. He coughs lightly, and when everyone quiets down, he slowly says, "The Wang Fei that Bin Wang is going to marry today is called Jun Mayan, from Qiyin country." Qiyin country? How could a woman from such a small, unranked country be worthy of Wangye? Wait, Jun Mayan? Why do I feel that this name is somewhat familiar? Isn't it the Enchantress of Medicine who is currently in the limelight in Qiyin country's Tianyuan city? Enchantress of Medicine? Don't tell me you don't even know the Enchantress of Medicine? That's a godly doctor that can bring the dead back to life. I heard that she's not inferior to godly Dr. Qian Qing, and she's still a beautiful young girl. She can be said to have boundless prospects. Oh, no wonder Jean Wang wants to marry a commoner woman from a small country. Hearing everyone's envious voices, the smile on Jean Wang's face becomes more and more proud. He brushes his robe and slowly says, Mayan is not only a doctor, but also an apothecary. The filter of barrier breaking that's worth millions of gold in the Ghost City was also refined by her. Hearing Jean Wang's words, the entire scene flares up. Even Qing Feng shows a shocked expression, and he suddenly looks at the still unconscious Mayan. That filter of barrier breaking was actually refined by the woman that Master wants to marry. It should be known that even after his master Jian Feng got his hands on that filter of barrier breaking, he was also amazed. Even if it's not an elixir, the value of this filter of barrier breaking is absolutely incomparable to that of ordinary drafts. Jean Wang sweeps over the shock and passion on everyone's faces and finally falls on Mayan's face. His eyes are filled with passion and excitement. These people still only know Mayan's superficial value. The Enchantress of Medicine and the godly apothecary. If they knew that yesterday's vision was also caused by Mayan, how crazy would these people be? And this June Mayan will soon become his woman. As for why Mayan would be unconscious on the day of the big day, Jean Wang shows an infatuated appearance and continues, that's because she used her body to test the medicine, and the effects didn't pass, so she didn't wake up. But Mayan and Mayan are in love with each other, and we've already agreed to hold the wedding today. Bin Wang doesn't want to let Mayan down, so he didn't postpone the wedding. Presumably, after today, Mayan will wake up. Even if there's a problem with the draft, and Mayan really can't wake up, Bin Wang's feelings for her will not change. Everyone present seems to be moved by Jean Wang's deep affection. Only Liu Beiyu, who is sitting at the bride's family's table, can't move his body, can't speak, can only stare at this disgusting man. It was as if it wanted to tear a piece of flesh from his body. At this time, Liu Beiyu's blood-stained clothes have been changed, and he has put on a festive, gorgeous gown. But his hands were hanging down powerlessly, his face was pale, and even the light in his eyes was faintly discernible, as if he would faint at any time. Bean-sized beads of sweat rolled down his forehead. The pain from the broken bones in his hands was absolutely unbearable for an ordinary person. However, Liu Beiyu seems to have forgotten his own pain. He just stares unwaveringly at Jean Wang and Mayan, who are about to bow to the heaven and earth. His eyes turn a little red. Master! Master! In order to save him, Master was threatened by Jean Wang. That was why he ended up in such a state. Why? Why was he so useless? In the past, Liu Beiyu didn't think it was a big deal that he didn't like to cultivate. Chapter 412. But at this very moment, he really wishes that he could ruthlessly slap that ignorant, incompetent, cowardly, and incompetent self to death. If it weren't for him, how could his master suffer such humiliation? Scalding tears fall from his eyes, mixing with his sweat. The bride and groom bow to heaven and earth. The MC's shrill voice resounds throughout the room. Bow to heaven and earth. Jean Wang brushes his robe, then turns to face the outside. He raises his hands in a bow and slowly bows. The two maids support Mayan's body, making her bow in coordination with Jean Wang's movements. However, the next moment, something strange happens. The two maids buckle Mayan's shoulders, wanting to bend her knees and press her head down. However, Mayan's body doesn't budge. The beaded curtain on the phoenix coronet gently swings, reflecting the girl's beautiful and tranquil countenance. It's so holy that it doesn't seem like it can be profaned. But at this moment, this holiness makes the atmosphere incomparably awkward. Just now, in that split second, Jean Wang has already bowed, but Mayan doesn't budge. In this way, Jean Wang's pious kowtow seems a little comical. Jean Wang's face distorts for a split second. He forcibly suppresses the anger in his heart and stands up with a gentle smile. He says, "Let go. It's fine if Bin Wang supports Mayan. She doesn't like other people's touch. Right now, she's definitely throwing a little tantrum." As soon as he says this, everyone immediately shows a look of sudden realization. It turns out that the new Wang Fei doesn't want to bow because she doesn't like to be touched and manipulated by others. Since she wants to marry Jin Wang so much, she certainly won't resist Jin Wang's touch. A dark light flashes through Jin Wang's eyes. The internal force in his body revolves, condenses in his palm, and slowly presses it on Mayan's body. He deeply looks at the still sleeping Mayan, his eyes filled with ruthlessness. Jun Mayan, even if you're unwilling, you must still bow to heaven and earth and marry Bin Wang today. If you still refuse to bow, then don't blame Bin Wang for being impolite. After saying that, internal force suddenly gushes out of his palm, and he presses Mayan's shoulder down. Bang! There's a loud noise, and it's accompanied by a sudden explosion of white light. Everyone simply can't react to what happened. They see Jin Wang's bright red figure fly out and heavily fall among the guests. For a moment, the entire audience is silent. Everyone was dumbfounded. He looked at the red-clothed girl who was still standing calmly in the middle of the hall. Then she looks at Jin Wang, who's cut a sorry figure as he gets up from the ground, his handsome face completely distorted. What happened just now? Jin Wang wants to press down on the bride and perform the ceremony of bowing to the heaven and earth, but he's directly bounced out. Didn't they say that Jun Mayan has deep feelings for Jin Wang, and that they've already agreed on today's wedding date? Since that was the case, how could such a scene happen? Why do I feel like something is wrong? It can't be that this enchantress of medicine simply doesn't want to marry Jin Wang, right? I think it's very possible. After all, Jin Wang's reputation outside is too dissolute. Who would be willing to marry a girl from a good family? Alas, I originally thought that if the enchantress of medicine becomes a person of my Huangyao country, then wouldn't godly drafts like the filter of barrier breaking also belong to our country of Xianyao? In the future, we wouldn't have to be afraid of getting sick. But if the enchantress was forced to get married at that time, not only would she not be able to help my Huangyao country, she might even take revenge on our Huangyao country. Everyone's whispers fall into Jin Wang's ears. Chapter 413. There's a ruthless expression on his handsome face, gnashing his teeth as he says, "All of you, shut up. Today is Bin Wang and Jun Mayan's wedding day. Whether she's willing or not, she must become Bin Wang's wife." Saying that, his gaze falls on Mayan, the ruthlessness in his eyes slowly turning into malevolence. Jun Mayan, Bin Wang originally wanted to treat you gently, give you the best love and the greatest respect. But since you refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit, then don't blame Bin Wang for being impolite. There's a swishing sound. Jin Wang pulls out a knife from the waist of the guard at his side. Pouring the mysterious energy in his body, he slashes towards Mayan's knees. Bin Wang would like to see if you can still stand after cutting off the tendons and veins on your feet. Bai Chen's complexion abruptly changes. His hand suddenly grips the hilt of his sword, about to unsheath it. "Martial uncle, wait a moment." Suddenly, a gentle voice comes out, interrupting Jin Wang's movements. Jin Wang abruptly turns his head, his expression fierce. Seeing that the one speaking is Qing Feng, he restrains himself a little, but his complexion is still very unsightly. "Qing Feng, if there's anything, wait until after Bin Wang and Mayan have gone through the wedding ceremony." Qing Feng smiles faintly, taking a step forward. He says, "Martial nephew, here is the wedding gift that Master wanted me to give you. If this Jun Mayan really doesn't know what's good for her and refuses to marry Martial Uncle, then presumably, this thing will be useful to Martial Uncle." Jin Wang shows a suspicious expression. He sees that Qing Feng has already taken out a jade box, handing it over. As soon as he opens the brocade box, Jin Wang's expression immediately changes. This is called the Wuqi seed. Qing Feng shoots a glance at Mayan at the side, and slowly says in a voice that everyone present can hear, "Master said that as long as Martial Uncle takes the Wuqi seed, then within an hour, she will take your blood. From then on, she will be dead set on you, unswerving until death. Even if you make her climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a pot of oil, make her become a dog, she will never disobey you. Until death." Whoosh! As soon as these words come out, everyone present can't help but suck in a mouthful of cold air, their expressions filled with fear and horror. In this world, there was actually such a sinister thing? As long as this thing was planted, this beautiful and talented young lady would be ruined for the rest of her life. Jin Wangye's voice trembles with excitement. The Wuqi seed. It's actually the Wuqi seed. Why would Jianfeng be willing to give such a precious thing to this prince? Qing Feng revealed a proud smile. Even though the Wuqi seed is precious, it isn't the rarest thing to my master. What's more, today is Marshall Uncle's big day. If I don't take out something good as a congratulatory gift, how can I have the face to congratulate you here? Good. Good. That's great. Jin Wang couldn't help but burst out laughing. The gloominess on his face just a moment ago was swept away. Go back and thank Jian Feng for me. Tell him that Bin Wang will remember this favor. As soon as he thinks about how this beautiful, moving, and unruly woman would be gracefully enjoying herself under his body after Wu Qi's seed has been planted, and how he can manipulate her however he wants, a blazing flame ignites in Jin Wang's eyes. She couldn't wait for the wedding to end immediately so that she could carry him into the bridal room. In front of all the guests, Jin Wang takes out the Wuqi seed and swallows it. Chapter 414. The girl dressed in red just stands there quietly. Her eyes are lightly closed, like a lifeless, yet exquisite and perfect doll. And when those closed eyes open, they shimmer, able to hook away the souls of all men in the world. This is a real stunner. There isn't a man in the world who wouldn't be attracted, who wouldn't be moved by her. And such a stunner will soon become his, Li Jinting's, pet, to wantonly toy with. Swish! The cold light of the sword chi flashes, almost brushing past Jin Wang's face. His complexion changes, and he abruptly retreats, barely dodging it. Seeing the white-clothed figure standing in front of Mayan, Jin Wang frowns, coldly saying, Bai Yiqin, what are you doing? The one who just attacked is Bai Yiqin, and at this very moment, he's firmly blocking in front of Mayan. The long sword is pointed at Jin Wang, his expression calm, his back straight, motionless. Bai Yiqin, Bin Wang admits that I've never treated you badly, but today, you actually want to betray Bin Wang for a woman? Bai Yiqin indifferently says, I owe Mayan a debt of gratitude. I can't just watch her die. Then what about your fiancé's revenge? Don't tell me you don't want to avenge her? Jin Wang narrows his eyes, suddenly saying slowly, Don't tell me you don't want to use Bin Wang as a springboard to sneak into the Heavenly Road sect and get close to your enemy? Bai Yiqin's pupils suddenly contract. You knew? You already knew? Haha, I've always been a suspicious person, and the thing I'm most worried about is things that are delivered to my door. In the past, when Bin Wang tried to recruit you, you didn't want to, and suddenly delivered yourself to my door. Of course, Bin Wang had to carefully investigate. In this investigation, I found out a lot of unexpected things. Bin Wang thought it was very interesting, so I kept you by my side. However, your performance today really disappointed Bin Wang. Bai Yiqin frowns slightly, and his fear of Jin Wang deepens. This is truly a man with profound strength and incomparably deep schemes. Bai Yiqin wants to use him to get close to Gong Qianxue for revenge, and he also wants to use Bai Yiqin. How about Bin Wang give you another chance? Jin Wang reveals a devilish smile. As long as you're willing to step aside, obediently be a guest, and enjoy Bin Wang and Mayan's wedding, Bin Wang promises to give you a chance to enter the Heavenly Road sect. He took a step forward and leaned close to Bai Yiqin's ear. He lowered his voice so that Qing Feng could not hear him. I can even promise to let you get close to my junior sister, Gong Qianxue, and give you a chance to take revenge. What do you think? You've been lying low for so long, even becoming a dog by this prince's side. Isn't it all to avenge your fiancé? Don't tell me that you're going to give up your revenge for a woman you've never met before, Jun Mayan? Or could it be that you've already fallen in love with someone else and forgotten about your fiancé who died tragically? The sword in Bai Yiqin's hand slowly lowered. Seeing this, Jin Wang can't help but laugh heartily. He passes him, wanting to feed Mayan the blood with the Wuqi seed. However, just as he stretched out his hand, a sword light flashes, and in a split second, the red groom's groom robe on Jin Wang's body is split open. There's even a sword wound on his arm. Bai Yiqin pulls Mayan behind him, and coldly looks at Jin Wang. I want revenge, but I don't want to become a cold-blooded monster that Sitong doesn't recognize. If I become an ungrateful brute in order to achieve my goal today, how would I have the face to face Sitong? One day, when I kill my enemy with my own hands and go to the Yellow Springs, how would I have the face to face Sitong? A notice to my dear ones. Chapter 415. He points his sword at Jin Wang, and a powerful internal force is suddenly released. If you want to force Mayan to marry you, then you'll have to step over my dead body. All the guests present were shocked. Those who were closest to Bai Yichen were trembling in fear. This is the pressure of a peak heaven stage. No, it's not just peak heaven stage. He's only one step away from innate stage. In just a few short months, Bai Yichen's cultivation has risen from the high rank of heaven stage to the peak of heaven stage, only a step away from the Xiantian stage. The former #1 genius of the Yinwu continent, when did he grow to this stage? This talent is no worse than Jingchang country's Princess Qianxue. Yeah. How old was Bai Yichen? Definitely less than 30, right? I've never seen or heard of such a young Xiantian expert. Jin Wang's cold and sinister gaze looks at the wound on his arm. Soon after, it slowly falls on Bai Yichen. Good. Since you're courting death, then don't blame this king. Niezheng. Jin Wang gives an order. Niezheng suddenly flew out from the crowd, leading a dozen or so black-clothed men, surrounding Bai Yichen. In the blink of an eye, the wedding banquet had turned into a battlefield of life and death. Bai Yichen's sword danced like a gust of wind. Niezheng, a peak heaven stage expert, along with more than 10 heaven stage experts, actually couldn't do anything to Bai Yichen. The atmosphere at the scene was almost suffocating. Wounds began to appear on Bai Yichen's body. The profound energy in his body was being consumed bit by bit, and he could barely lift the sword in his hand. Niezheng thought in his heart that his chance had come. The thorns in his palm quietly shot out. Ah! Liu Beiyu screamed, reminding Bai Yichen. However, he was still one step too late. The thorns pierced through Bai Yichen's abdomen. Blood gushed out like a waterfall, instantly dyeing his snow-white clothes red. How many of the guests present had never heard of Bai Yichen, the dustless swordsman? How many people wouldn't admire and like such a young talent? Seeing this scene, he couldn't help but avert his eyes in disbelief. Liu Beiyu directly rolls down from the stool, letting out coarse and unpleasant wails as he wriggles his body, trying to crawl towards Bai Yichen and Mu Yin. Niezheng looked at the thorns on Bai Yichen's abdomen and laughed heartily. Bai Yichen, to think that you would have such a day. He has long found this new pretty boy unpleasing to the eye. What Yinwu continent's #1 genius? That's just a joke, nothing more. He was still going to die in his hands today. Suddenly, Niezheng's laughter came to an abrupt halt, because he saw that the handsome and pale face of the man in front of him slowly curved into a mocking smile. Before he could figure out what this smile meant, he felt a strong gust of wind beside his ear. With a swishing sound, a sharp pain came from his limbs. Niezheng's eyes abruptly widened. He opened his mouth, wanting to let out a mournful scream, but he could only watch helplessly as his hands and feet flew out, blood splattering everywhere. Ah! The screams finally pierced through the clouds. In just a few breaths' time, everyone saw Bai Yichen's long sword suddenly fly up on its own. Like a bolt of lightning, it flew towards Niezheng. Immediately after, blood splattered everywhere, and severed limbs flew everywhere. Both of Niezheng's hands and feet were chopped off, turning him into a thorough cripple. The entire audience was deathly silent. Chapter 416. Jin Wang lifts his foot and kicks him, sneering. Since he's a waste, what's the use of saving him? Bai Yichen, this prince really appreciates your talent, so I'm willing to give you another chance. As long as you step aside and hand Mayan over to me, Bin Wang will naturally spare your and Liu Beiyu's lives. What do you think? Bai Yichen's entire body was bathed in blood, but his face was even paler than a sheet of paper. His body swayed, and finally, unable to support himself, he knelt down on one knee. The long sword stabbed into the ground, supporting his tottering body, but it seemed like he would fall at any moment. "I've said it before," he slowly said in a hoarse voice. "If you want to touch Mayan, you'll have to step over my dead body." Before he could finish his words, everyone saw a red light flash before their eyes. Jin Wang's figure has already disappeared. Then, a hand grabbed Bai Yichen's neck and lifted him off the ground. Crack, crack. A terrifying voice rang out. Bai Yichen's throat had been crushed, and Jin Wang's pressure and killing intent are also released without reservation. Bang! Someone fell to the ground in fright. Someone's face was pale, and his face was filled with shock. Innate. The seemingly dissolute and debauchee, ignorant and incompetent Jin Wangya actually has a pre-celestial cultivation. Even Qing Feng's pupils constricted. Even he did not expect that Uncle Master Jin Ting's cultivation had already reached such a high level. Looks like I have to report this to Master when I return. Since you can't say anything nice with that mouth of yours, then you might as well never speak again. There's a cruel smile on Jin Wang's face. Since Bin Wang can't use your cultivation, then there's no need to keep it. Boom! The powerful, profound energy exploded on Bai Yichen's already injured abdomen. Bai Yichen spat out a mouthful of blood as all the profound energy in his body dissipated. Jin Wang swings his hand, directly throwing Bai Yichen out like a broken sack. He then took out a handkerchief and slowly wiped off the blood stains on his fingers. His sinister gaze swept across everyone present. Did you see it clearly? This is the result of opposing this king. In the past, he disguised himself as a silk pants because he wasn't strong enough. He had no choice but to feign weakness so as not to arouse the fear of the emperor of Huangyao. But now, he has Jun Mayan and godly drafts. In this world, no one is his opponent. As a result, Jin Wang's true colors of ruthlessness, and exuberant ambition are revealed. Aya! Liu Beiyu pounces over in a frenzy. He bites Jin Wang's calf, stopping him from moving forward. But he gets kicked away by Jin Wang, and even the bones in his leg are crushed. At this point, no one can stop him from planting the Wuqi seed in Mu Yan. In other words, no one dared to stop him anymore. Fresh blood is forced out from Jin Wang's fingertips and is slowly delivered to Mayan's mouth. As long as this blood is fed, Mayan will henceforth become Jin Wang's slave and puppet at his mercy. The blood slowly approaches, staining Mayan's light pink lips. It was about to seep into his mouth. Suddenly, a dazzling white light mixed with golden light emits from Mu Yan's body. Powerful energy seemed to explode between the two of them. Jin Wang is caught off guard, and his whole body is sent flying. This time, it's not only Jin Wang, even Mayan is affected by this explosive power. He flew out like a kite with a broken string. Chapter 417. The girl in red is flying very high, like a beautiful fluttering butterfly. But right now, she can't budge even half a step. If she were to fall from such a high altitude, her bones would inevitably break, and she might even die. Some people cover their eyes, unable to bear to watch. Some people also try to rush over, wanting to catch her. However, the next moment, everyone is stunned by the scene before them. Who is that? How could he be holding the bride? Wait a minute. When did he appear? How come I didn't notice him at all just now? Everyone raises their heads to look at the sky. Light and shadow intertwine, and they see a tall and imposing figure quietly floating high in the sky at some point in time. As the girl in red flies away, his figure flashes, and he pulls that figure into his arms. One is dark purple, the other is bright red. They slowly rotate in the sky, their sleeves fluttering in the wind, as if they're one. It's as if they're refracting sunlight, as beautiful as a scene that could only appear in legendary stories. When the two figures land, everyone can clearly see the appearance of the newcomer. If it's said that Jin Wangya is also a famous handsome man in Huangyao country, moving people's hearts, if it's said that Bai Yichen is as gentle as jade, incomparably handsome, making people fall in love with him, then the man before them is the one who disdains the world, the one who makes people look up to and submit to him. So much so that the first thing that people notice isn't his outstanding appearance that could make women go crazy. Instead, It's his imposing manner. It's that peerless magnificence that's colder than the cold, hotter than the blazing sun, and loftier than the gods. Everyone's gazes fall on him and the girl in his arms. The phoenix coronet has long fallen to the ground, broken into pieces, revealing the girl's absolutely beautiful and elegant appearance. Even if her eyes are closed, they still can't hide that incomparably bright beauty that can amaze the world. At this moment, they suddenly feel that these two people should be a match made in heaven. As for Jin Wangya, even if he's also considered handsome and powerful, he's far from worthy of this girl. Who are you? You dare to come to Bin Wang's wedding and make trouble? Jin Wangya stands firm with great difficulty. When he sees the man holding Mayan, an indescribable jealousy and fear suddenly surges in his heart. It's precisely because of this spontaneous fear and jealousy that he becomes angry out of humiliation. With a wave of his hand, the guards of the Wang Fu immediately rushed over from all directions, surrounding the man and Mu Yin. Mother, a crisp, childish voice sounded with a hint of nervousness. Only then did everyone realize that the godlike man was holding onto a little boy who looked like he was carved from jade. As soon as the little boy sees Mayan, he immediately rushes over, the rims of his eyes slightly red. Nyang Qin, Xiao Bao and Daddy are here. I will never let anyone bully you again. Her small fists are tightly clenched, and her big blue eyes look towards Jin Wang, brimming with killing intent. The word daddy is said very softly, even Di Mingju didn't hear it. Or, it could be said that Di Mingju's entire mind is focused on Mayan at this time. Looking at the wedding dress of the girl in his arms, the bloodstains on her body, and her pale face, he couldn't help but sigh. The corner of Di Mingju's mouth slowly hooks up into a tiny arc. However, his usually deep blue eyes were bone-chilling, as if he wanted to freeze everything in the world into ice. Han Yi and Ing Mei, who arrived a step too late, almost tremble in fright when they see this scene. Everyone in the polar domain knew. Jun Shang almost never smiles. Chapter 418. Because when Jun Shang shows such a smile, it means that he's really angry. When an emperor gets angry, corpses float for thousands of miles. Even if it's any sect in the immortal cultivation world, they still wouldn't be able to bear Jun Shang's wrath. The people in this Jin Wangfu, they're all doomed. You're that bastard that Jun Mayan gave birth to. Jin Wang suddenly opens his mouth. In that case, you're the adulterer that stayed in the Junji Medical Center. Today, you've delivered yourselves to the door. That really couldn't be any better. Di Mingju slowly lifts his head, his gaze meeting with Jin Wang's. Jin Wang suddenly quivers all over. A bone-piercing chill shoots up from his tailbone, straight to his whole body. However, when he sees the blood on Mayan's lips, he immediately bursts into laughter. I don't care who you are, or what you want to do, but you're already one step too late. Do you see the blood on Mayan's lips? That's my blood that contains the Wuchi seed. Mayan must have already swallowed that blood by now. When she wakes up, she'll become my puppet. Haha. Jin Wang's laughter comes to a screeching halt. That's because he sees Di Mingju suddenly bend down, kissing Mayan's lips. With their lips sticking together like this, that blood naturally stains Di Mingju. Ha 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 ha. You're actually courting death. Jin Wang simply looks like he's seen the biggest joke. This Wuchi seed can create at least 5 puppets within an hour. It's just that the duration of the drug's effect will be reduced. That's all. You swallowed Bin Wang's blood. That's the same as Bin Wang planting the Wuchi seed. Ha ha ha. You'll soon become Bin Wang's puppet. Han Yi sneers at Jin Wang, his eyes full of pity and disdain. Ing Mei's hand grips the scabbard. His entire body is like a taut bowstring, ready to go, waiting for Di Mingju's order. After a long time, Di Mingju finally lets go of Mayan's small mouth. The pink lips are a little red and swollen from the kiss, but the blood on them has already been wiped clean by Di Mingju using a special method. He narrows his eyes, then he lowers his head and punishingly bites those captivating red lips. Only then does he look at Jin Wang. You want Bin Jun to become your puppet? A low and cold voice slowly resounds. Jin Wang trembles, an indescribable fear welling up in his heart. Moreover, this man had clearly drunk his blood, But the mother goo of the Wuchi seed in his body had not changed at all. There wasn't even the slightest bit of connection. Why? Could it be that the blood just now had lost its effect? Not to mention Diming-ju, he couldn't even sense the Wuchi seed on Mayan's body. Go, all of you go. Tear these people into pieces. Diming-ju's eyebrows droop. In a low and deep voice, he slowly says, dismember a corpse into 10,000 pieces, not bad. As you bid, Junshang. Han Yi bows in response. Ingmei, on the other hand, had already darted out. Like a ghost, his figure shuttles back and forth between the black-clothed bodyguards of Jin Wangfu. It was unknown how much time had passed. It seemed very short, but at the same time, it felt as long as he had sunk into the 18th level of hell. Jin Wang gasps for air. Pieces of severed limbs, flesh, and even heads were thrown in front of him. Dismemberment. This was truly dismemberment. He had spent a lot of effort and money to nurture these men of sacrifice. No matter which one of them goes out, they can move unhindered in the Yinwu continent. Chapter 419. Han Yi throws the head of the last black-clothed guard in front of Jin Wang. Beaming, he says, this Wang Ye. I wonder if you're satisfied with this method of dismembering corpses into 10,000 pieces? All the guests were dumbfounded by the sudden change of events. Some of the more timid ones even hid under the table. There's also someone who keeps shouting, I just came to attend the wedding banquet, it has nothing to do with me. I'm not a person of Jin Wangfu. Don't kill me, ah. Even Qing Feng's face was deathly pale. He stealthily hid in the corner of the wall, hoping to take advantage of the chaos to escape. Jin Wang's eyes bulge out, and he stares at the corpses piled up like a mountain in front of him. He opens his mouth and says, you, in the end. Who are you people, giggle? What enmity do you have with my Jin Wangfu? Hee. Why did you have to kill him again? It's only when he's talking that Jin Wang discovers that his teeth can't help but chatter. His legs were trembling uncontrollably. Because the moment he sees Han Yi and Ingmei make their moves, he clearly realizes that he's no match for these people. What's more, the most frightening man holding Jun Mayan still hasn't made a move. Since he had no chance of winning, he could only show weakness. Where there is life, there is hope. Han Yi sneered. What enmity? This enmity was huge. You stole our Jun Shang's fiancé, and you still ask us what kind of enmity you have with us? Sure enough, he's Jun Mayan's adulterer. Jin Wang grits his teeth, but there's a smile on his face. Bin Wang, at first, Bin Wang didn't know that Mayan. No, Miss Jun is your fiancé. Otherwise, this one wouldn't have snatched away your love. However, this prince swears that I have never touched Miss Jun. While Miss Jun is staying here, this prince has treated her with courtesy, never daring to neglect or force her. Now that we know it's all a misunderstanding, why don't we just let it go? Jin Wang still hasn't finished his fawning words. Xiaobao suddenly seems to have seen something. He releases Diming-ju's hand and rushes out. Lu Beiyu. Uncle Rabbit Lantern. His small hands were trembling. He wanted to touch it, but he didn't dare to. The two people in front of him could no longer be described as humanoid. Whether it's Lu Beiyu or Bai Yichen, both of them are drenched in blood. From top to bottom, there isn't a piece of skin that is unharmed. The wound on Bai Yichen's abdomen was still bleeding profusely. The tendons and meridians in his body were empty, without the slightest bit of profound qi. He's the most dazzling young talent in Yinwu continent, but at this very moment, he's a cripple who can no longer cultivate. Xiao Bao abruptly lifts his head, glaring fiercely at Jin Wang. You're the one who put Junior Brother and Uncle Rabbit Lantern in this state? The person in front of him was just a 4-year-old child. Jin Wang is inexplicably flustered, especially when he sees Han Yi and Ingmei slowly coming forward with swords in their hands. Bin Wang only saw that they were hooking up with Mu Yin, and their relationship was too intimate, so he beat them up out of jealousy. That's right. Today's wedding was also held because Mu Yin herself said that she wanted to marry Bin Wang. I really didn't know she had a fiancé. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.